Humanity finds itself getting overrun by monsters and the undead. The human hero Eos goes up against the undead knight. He uses his greatest sword strike to try and take down his enemy, but he falls. He falls to his knees with his body burning up from the enemy's mana. Before being burned completely to dust, he acknowledges the fact that his opponent, the Death Knight, is on another level. The Death Knight stands untouched with his giant sword and scary mask as he looks down upon the destruction that he and his army have wreaked on the entire region. He takes off his helmet, and behind his red eyes are blue, innocent human eyes. At the back is the leader of the undead, who is pleased with his warriors and the chaos they have brought upon humanity. He is glad that he has finally brought the Empire down to its knees. And all of this, he did with his power. He compares this to the adage that the longer the wait, the sweeter the revenge. The leader of the undead stands above tons of human bodies in his terrifying robe. He looks down on the Empire's emperor, who has been captured by his warriors. The terrifying leader is Dorgo, and he is an archlich who has been waiting 1,000 years to wreak havoc on humanity. The Emperor, Adel Light, shed tears as he screamed at Dorgo for wiping out his empire and annihilating his people. Adel asks Dorgo if hell is not enough for him to reside in. But all of this doesn't affect Dorgo, as he basks in the joy brought about by Adel's tears. Dorgo makes fun of the Emperor, asking him if he is done blabbering because he wants them to proceed with the coronation. The Emperor is shocked by this, asking Dorgo if he is holding a coronation. Dorgo makes a peace sign as he talks about his achievement. Apparently, he has unified the continent for the first time in history. Since he is able to achieve this feat, he believes that he should be called an emperor. Dorgo then turns to his trusted warriors and knights. He commends them for a job well done, especially his Death Knight. He demands that they bring the imperial crown to him, and they do as he says. The Death Knight holds the crown in his hands and slowly walks up to Dorgo. Dorgo commends the Death Knight for being his most loyal servant. He is also one of the reasons he is able to achieve victory. Dorgo is pleased with the Death Knight's contributions, and he starts thinking of ways to reward him. However, Dorgo trashes the idea as he calls the Death Knight his slave, who is specially made to serve him and do everything he wants. Dorgo is still blabbering about how it is the Death Knight's job to serve him when the Death Knight suddenly throws the crown in the air. Dorgo doesn't understand what is happening until the Death Knight destroys the crown and attacks him. This shocks the other servants, but Dorgo reacts as he unleashes a dark red aura to try and take out the Death Knight. However, the Death Knight dodges this, and before Dorgo knows it, the Death Knight has struck him in the chest. This shocks Dorgo since his defense was active, but the Knight's strike managed to penetrate. Dorgo remains in this state of confusion until the Knight finally gets rid of the scary red eyes. He speaks like a regular human, mentioning how pleased he is that he is finally moving of his own volition. This shocks Dorgo because he remembers wiping every bit of consciousness that the Knight has. The Knight then confesses that he only made him believe that. Apparently the Death Knight was aware of everything, but he couldn't do anything since he was trapped in his own body. Dorgo is impressed when he hears this, and he takes the credit for making the Knight his masterpiece. He then tells the Knight that he will only allow him to vent his anger for that moment. He promises to find a way to regain control of his body. The other servants rush at the Death Knight to try and take him out, but he is so overpowered that all he needs is massive energy to wipe them all out in one go. Even Dorgo cannot believe that all of his right-hand men were taken out in a single strike. Realizing how dangerous the situation is, Dorgo activates his magical powers, and he starts bringing the dead back to life to attack the traitor Knight. As the undead rush toward him, the Death Knight utters a single word, "Stop." With this, he activates a power that emits a purple aura from his body, and it takes control of the undead. The power runs through their bodies and shatters all of them into pieces. Dorgo cannot believe what is happening right in front of him, and he compares the Death Knight to a creature that is equal to the gods. Realizing that the situation is going out of hand, Dorgo tries to take the diplomatic approach. He tells the Knight that he understands his anger because he would also be angry if he were in his shoes. He then lets the Knight know that he hasn't won because even if he destroys his body, he can easily transfer his soul to another body. He assures the Knight that he can take control of him once he is in another body. The Knight then tells Dorgo that all he has always wanted to do is kill him. This was his motivation every day while he was trapped inside his body. Dorgo still doesn't take this seriously until the Knight lets him know that he has derived a sword technique specially to sever his soul. Dorgo argues this, saying there is no way such a technique exists. The Death Knight powers himself up and unleashes his swordsmanship technique on Dorgo. A beam of bright blue light approaches Dorgo, causing him to fear. He wonders if he should dodge the attack or not. Before he can make his decision, the Knight reaches him and delivers the blow to send him flying. Dorgo lands back on his feet, and when he realizes that he is still in one piece, he heaves a sigh of relief, saying that there is no technique that can kill him. Suddenly, something strikes him and he screams in pain. The heavens open and a strange power grabs him and passes an energy beam into him that shatters him into pieces. Dorgo is crushed, and the only thing left is his ugly skull. The knight steps on the skull, crushing it while telling him to go to hell. The Emperor is totally confused with everything going on around him as he starts to question his sanity. Just then, the knight falls to his knees, heaving a sigh of relief that everything is finally over. However, he believes that he has one more thing that he needs to do. Apparently, he has some people that he needs to apologize to. He is prepared to meet death, as this is the only way to apologize to his family. Suddenly, he falls on his giant sword, impaling him clean through. As he does this, he loses consciousness, but he suddenly hears a voice calling him by his real name, Damien. He opens his eyes to see a lady standing above him, asking him why he is sleeping in such an odd place. Damien, our MC, is glad that he can finally get to see the face of the woman in front of him before he dies. Suddenly, it dawns on him that the lady standing in front of him is younger than he remembers. The lady smiles, telling Damien to stop flattering her. She believes that Damien is only trying to get on her good side before their father scolds him again. It turns out that the lady is his big sister. She tells him to hurry inside the room because it might start raining. Damien is genuinely confused because the mansion in front of him was destroyed, and he was the one who destroyed the mansion. Damien concludes that he is dreaming and that everything that happened with Dorgo was also a dream. Just then, he picks up a stick to try and figure out what is going on with him. He stands in front of a rock and makes a knight's pose. He strikes the rock with the stick, and to his surprise, the rock shatters upon impact. Damien laughs like a maniac as he has finally realized what is going on. Damien falls to his knees in tears and grabs his shirt, coming to the conclusion that he is not in a dream. For some miracle that he can't explain, he has returned to the past. Damien bawls his eyes out because he knows what this means to him. In his past life, Damien had a talent for putting his family into trouble. His father never has a good day because of him. On his latest feat, he caused commotion at a bar and got himself kicked out. His father cannot believe how far he has destroyed the family's name. He is always getting into one trouble or another. At some point, he hit a young man who was from the noble family of Leon Bloom March. Because of this act, his sister was taken away to get married to the nobleman he had hit. He even took it too far by borrowing money and using the family land as collateral, causing his mother severe pain in the process. After his father could not take any more of his nonsense, he was sent away. As he leaves the house, his sister walks up to him and hands him a pouch of money, telling him to be happy. Damien couldn't believe that even though he was the sole cause of why his sister's life was ruined, she still cared about him. Damien grabbed the money and rushed out of the house. As he ran far away from the house, for the first time, he understood what guilt and shame were. Now that he is back in the past, he is left to wonder how it happened. Damien knows that he has intentions of apologizing to his family, but he never expected that he would come back to the past. He looks into the sky and considers what just happened as a divine miracle. Damien figured out that he was in the past because the technique he used was something he was not capable of before. The technique is one that amplifies the impact of a blow by several-fold. This is a technique that he acquired after killing the knight called Castle Wall Destroyer. Suddenly, he hears someone calling him. It turns out to be a servant, and he is exhausted just from running. Damien racks his brain before figuring out the dude's name. He finally remembers that he is called Victor. Victor asks Damien why he is still sitting outside when his sister, Louise, already told him to enter. Victor mentions that Damien's father is furious, and Damien asks the servant what it is that he has done this time around. Victor is surprised by the question since he is the one who committed an offense, and he should be the one to remember. Damien enters the house to face his father's wrath. His father almost strikes him down with a sword, but he dodges it. Damien can sense the anger emanating from his father's body. Damien's mother and sister are forced to hold the man down before he does something crazy. The man berates Damien for causing trouble at a bar, which led to him getting kicked out. The man is pissed that Damien is always inventing new ways to destroy the family's name. The man threatens to crush his son, but the ladies urge him to rethink his decision. Damien just stands there, reeling everything in since it's been a long time since he last heard his father's voice. His father is Paul Osborne Haxon, while his mother is Marilda and his sister is Louise. Just hearing his father scolding him brings Damien to tears because he has missed the situation so badly. Everyone is shocked when they realize that Damien is crying. Paul then asks Damien to reveal the blatant excuses he has this time around. Surprisingly, Damien tells his father that he has no excuses. Paul agrees that there is no way he's going to have an excuse to fall back on, but this is when it suddenly dawns on Paul that something is wrong. Damien is the troublesome son who is always coming up with excuses for his wrongdoings. Damien then tells his father that he is aware of this, and he admits to the fact that he has trashed his family's name, the Haxon Viscountcy. Damien assures his father that he has no excuses as he takes full responsibility for everything that has happened so far. Paul is about to start saying some crazy things when Damien bows his head, assuring his father that he is going to make up for the errors he has made. Paul is utterly shocked when he sees this, and he watches as his son steps out of the house. Before leaving, Damien assures his father that he will be back to receive his punishment after he is done fixing up his mistake. Paul and the ladies just stand there in awe, with Paul concluding that Damien must have hit his head, which is why he is talking so differently. Momentarily, Damien heads to the merchant city of Landwork. He is accompanied by Victor. They arrive at a bar that Damien intends to enter. Victor is worried because he has heard rumors about the bar getting support from a certain dangerous syndicate. Victor is scared that something bad might happen to Damien, but Damien tells him that he is free to go back if he is scared. Victor replies that he cannot go back on his own since they came together. Damien then assures Victor that he is not going to the bar to cause any trouble. He just wants to tender an apology to the owner, and afterward, they leave. Damien genuinely wants to make up for what he did. Victor hopes that things work out well because this is the only thing he can pray for. As Damien walks toward the bar, he knows that his coming back to the past is a total mystery, and since he has been given another chance, he is not ready to waste it. This time around, he wants to do right by his family and stop trashing their name in the mud. He arrives at the door where 2 gang members are standing guard. The guards are surprised to see Damien back at the bar, and they demand to know his business with them. Damien obviously does not remember what it is that he did since it's been long, but he knows that the 2 look familiar. To skip the formalities, Damien tells the guards that he is there to apologize to the owner of the establishment because of what happened the last time he was at the bar. The guards are shocked to hear this, and they wonder why Damien is coming up to them with an apology out of nowhere. The guards make fun of Damien, calling him a funny dude. They start talking trash to him unprovoked, calling him the crap of his family. Suddenly, one of the guards takes it too far by bringing his sister into the conversation. He tells Damien that his sister is very beautiful and that they consider it the only good thing in the family. One of them smacks him right on the face, telling him that they are ready to accept his apology, but under one condition. They demand that he introduce them to his lovely sister so that they can get down with her. The 2 believe that what they are saying is funny, and they start laughing. One of them holds a knife to his face, and Damien finally gets enough of their trash. Before the dude can react, Damien takes the knife from him. Damien is disappointed with the sudden turn of events because he thought he could just apologize and then go back. The guard wearing a durag screams at Damien, demanding that he return the knife that he just collected from him. Damien spins the knife around and finally gives in to his rage. He helps out the guard on durag by cutting off his hand since he is pointing it at him. The dude screams in pain as his hand flies into the air right in front of him. The 2 are stunned as they cannot process what just happened right in front of them. Damien is pretty mad, and this shows from the killing intent emanating from his body. Damien takes a scary pose, telling the thugs that he is about to show them what a piece of crap like him, who is from the Haxon Viscountcy, can do. Meanwhile, Victor is watching everything unfold from where he is hiding, and he's already bawling in tears because things are spiraling out of hand, and this is not what the plan was. The chaos soon attracts some spectators who want to see what will happen. The guard who still has his complete limbs starts to boast, asking Damien if he knows the dangerous faction he belongs to. Damien simply tells him that he doesn't care who he is or who he works for. Damien urges him to attack him since this is his plan. Instead of attacking, he raises his fist, showing the snake tattoo on it. He mentions that he is a member of the Black Snake Gang, and no one gets away with messing with them. The mention of the name Black Snake finally reminds Damien of what he has forgotten. The Black Snake is an organization that has been expanding their influence in the city. Apparently, they provide security for the bar too. Damien remembers that all he did was complain about the food, but this got him beaten up by the guards right in front of everyone. Damien begs them to stop hitting him since he's ready to pay for the food. Remembering what happened, Damien switches things up and realizes that he is the one who is supposed to be getting an apology and not the other way around. Damien smiles when he remembers this, as he knows that he now has a good reason to deal with them. The guards notice that he is smiling, and they wonder what is so funny to him that he is grinning ear to ear. The thug then lets Damien know that he is not going to go easy on him just because he is a noble. He charges at Damien with all of his strength, but Damien subtly steps out of the way. The dude loses balance and crashes to the ground with his face. Damien lets the dude know that he can easily kill all of them at the spot, but he will not because of his family. Suddenly, the dude feels Damien's presence behind him, and Damien stabs him on the leg, sending a wave of agony through his body. The 2 guards are left screaming in pain, but suddenly, 4 more gang members show up. The unit leader asks Damien if he is from another organization, but Damien reveals that he was just there to tender an apology until he realized that he was the one who needed to be apologized to. Damien tells the thugs to guide him to where the owner of the bar is, since he needs to make an official complaint. Instead of acting civil, just like Damien, the thugs decide that they need to show him who he has just messed with. They threaten to beat the crap out of him, and the unit leader orders his men to go after Damien. The trio rushes at poor Damien, but Damien remains cool-headed. He takes a deep breath before showing them why they need to think before they act. In the blink of an eye, Damien runs through them, cutting off their limbs in the process. This shocks the unit leader as he watches his men scream in pain. One has lost his arm, while another is missing a leg. Damien, on the other hand, is disappointed that he only took out 3 thugs, and he is already panting like a deer. Damien asks the unit leader if he is interested in continuing the fight, but he quickly raises his hand in fear, assuring Damien that he doesn't want to be a part of the whole thing anymore. He tries making a run for it, but Damien grabs him. Everyone in the bar is having fun until Damien appears at the door while holding a knife to the thug's throat. Damien knocks the dude out and he stands at the door like a scary villain. Panic ensues among the customers, and they all make a run for it before they end up like the thug. The entire room becomes empty, and the owner, Anderson, finally steps out. He stands on the balcony, demanding to know what the whole chaos is all about. Suddenly he notices Damien standing in the middle of the bar with a knife in his hand. Anderson asks Damien where the guards disappeared to. With this, Damien figures out that Anderson is the bar owner. Damien lets Anderson know that he has taken care of the guards. Anderson is shocked to hear that Damien defeated members of the Black Snake. Anderson screams at Damien, asking him who he is to have come to his establishment to cause trouble. Damien then reveals his identity to the man. Damien mentions that he doesn't want a problem, and he is only there to receive an apology from him. Anderson is confused when he hears this, and Damien decides to spell it out for him. Damien mentions that his bar is overpriced, and he made a complaint, but his men beat him up before throwing him out. Because of this, the people believe that Damien was just a drunkard troublemaker. In addition to this, his family lost a lot of things. Anderson is confused about what his family lost, and he asks Damien if he is talking about his family's honor. Anderson decides to make fun of Damien, telling him that his family, the Haxon Viscountcy, doesn't have any honor to lose since they are trash. This gets to Damien, who remains silent as he watches Anderson spill more trash about him. Anderson then reveals that he has no intention to say sorry, and he demands that Damien pay for messing with his business. Damien smiles when he hears Anderson say this. He lets Anderson know that he was planning to forgive him for everything that happened over an apology. However, since Anderson is acting all rude, Damien is ready to punish him for it. Damien leaps toward Anderson, ready to impale him with the knife. Suddenly, Damien feels a strange aura coming toward him. He manages to react just at the right time to block the incoming attack. Damien is pushed backward into the bar. It turns out that the strange dude in a hoodie who just showed up is a knight, and his name is Ted. Damien expresses his surprise that someone as skillful as Ted is working for a trashy bar. Ted remains silent, and Damien asks him why a knight like him is working at the bar. Ted stands on the balcony with his aura burning through the whole room. Apparently, knights are the pinnacle of martial arts. There are 3 levels to the knighthood. There is the official knight, which is at the peak level, followed by an apprentice knight, and then the bottom tier is the trainee. Based on their skill level, the knights are assigned their ranks. The official knights are those who know how to freely use their aura. With just a single strike, they can cut down mountains and even slice through castle walls like tissue. Official knights are basically beings on another level. Anderson boasts about Ted, telling Damien that Ted is an apprentice knight and that he is close to the boss of Black Snake. Anderson lets Damien know that he is done for. Damien is surprised to hear that Ted is an apprentice knight, and he finally realizes why he felt an aura surge from the dude. Ted is shocked when he hears Damien talk about his aura. He wonders how Damien was able to sense it when he didn't even materialize it. Damien then continues by saying he understands why Ted is working in such a place. Damien believes that Ted was kicked out as an apprentice knight because he didn't have the talent to become an official knight. Anderson then turns to Ted, asking him how much it will cost to take care of Damien. Ted tells Anderson that they are going to talk about prices later because he is already pissed. He jumps toward Damien, planning to teach him a lesson for running his mouth. Before his sword can reach Damien, Damien easily dodges by taking a step backwards. Ted's sword hits the ground in anger, smashing the ground under him. Ted doesn't stop there as he swings his sword frantically, aiming to take Damien out. Damien dodges all of his strikes, and he admits that Ted is quite skilled, even though he is just an apprentice knight. Damien assesses his fighting style and figures out that his movements are wide, but his attacks are very sharp. Ted is burning with rage as he swings his sword at Damien, forcing him to jump backwards. At this point, Damien is already getting tired since he is only starting to get used to his new body. During the fight, Damien is already thinking of what to do to help his body, and he comes up with building his stamina. Ted then prepares to hit Damien with his secret technique. As he prepares to unleash it, Damien recognizes it. Ted dashes toward Damien, but Damien closes his eyes to focus. Since Ted is trying to finish him off with a powerful technique,
Damien is prepared to go band for band. Apparently, before he regressed, there was a scary dude known as Phantom Assassin, and he is very dangerous. Damien ended up crossing paths with him while he was the Death Knight. The Phantom Assassin threatens the Death Knight, urging him to get out of his way or face his wrath. Since the Death Knight refuses to move, the Phantom Assassin shows his secret technique. Apparently, the technique allows him to see the human body the way it is. He calls the technique the Blade of Death, and he charges at the Death Knight to cut him down. The technique is so powerful that it slices the Death Knight in half. The Phantom Assassin is boasting about how deadly his technique is when he turns around to see the Death Knight coming back together. This was when it dawned on the assassin that the knight he had just gone up against was an undead. Surprisingly, the Phantom Assassin dies at the hands of the Death Knight by using his own technique against him. The Phantom Assassin is left to wonder how the knight was able to use his technique. Now, in the present, Damien does the same thing to Ted. Ted crashes to the ground with a massive cut to his chest. Damien remembers that all of his enemies are always in disbelief whenever they die. After Damien became the Death Knight, he was given a very special ability, which allows him to absorb the abilities of his enemies and turn them into his. Anderson realizes that he is screwed when he sees Ted fall to Damien. He immediately switches up and he gathers the guards so that they can apologize to Damien. Anderson gets on his knees and he bows to Damien, begging the dude to forgive him. To try and get Damien to even consider the apology, Anderson adds a ton of money to it. Damien only wanted an apology before, but since Anderson is adding money to it, he has no choice but to take it. Damien then plays along, telling Anderson that the money is not enough, but he will only forgive him this time. Fear grips Anderson as he prays that Damien doesn't change his mind. Damien then orders Victor to enter the room and pack the money. Victor slowly enters the room, and as he packs the money, he starts wondering when Damien learned swordsmanship. He never would have believed that Damien defeated the guards if he had not witnessed it himself. After Victor is done packing the money, he and Damien prepare to leave. Anderson remains in his polite position and wishes Damien a safe trip back to his house. Victor is blown away, telling Damien that this is the first time he will see such a huge amount of money. When Anderson hears this, he almost dies of anger. He is so pissed, and he promises to get all of his money back by reporting the situation to the boss of Black Snake. Anderson is thinking about this when Damien suddenly turns back, telling Anderson that he still has a punishment to serve. Damien uses the secret technique, and before anyone can react, he has taken off Anderson's ear, leaving him to writhe in pain. Even the guards are shocked by this, and Damien leaves them with a message. He sends a special warning to the Black Snake, telling them not to come near his family or else there will be serious consequences for it. Anderson rolls on the ground in pain while grabbing his lost ear. He is determined to make Damien pay for what he did. With this, Damien and Victor leave the town. Damien is very much aware that what he just did will not wash away the troubles he has caused in the past, but he is determined to make sure that his family is not disappointed in him in this new life that he has been given. Meanwhile, at the Leon Bloom March estate, the young master of the estate is planning something sinister. He tells his sister that he is leaving to find love while he is wearing a disgusting smirk on his face. Soon afterward, Damien and Victor arrive at the estate. Damien talks about how happy he is that he got a good sleep because it's been a while. Victor can't say the same because he was worried the whole night. He couldn't stop thinking about what happened the day before. Damien then continues, saying he knows that things went off from their original plan, but he is glad that they got a reward. In addition to this, rumors will start flying around about how someone messed with Paul's eldest son at a bar, and they got absolutely annihilated for it. He knows that once the rumors start flying around, people will start taking the family seriously, and they won't mess with them again. Damien grins, telling Victor that the way they see him as a loser might also change. Victor is surprised that Damien is self-aware of the things going on around him, which is something he never did in the past. Victor is glad that this is happening, but at the same time, he is worried about the Black Snake. Victor says Damien didn't only beat their members up, but he also trashed an apprentice knight affiliated with the group. Damien calms Victor down, telling him that no matter how bold the Black Snake is, they won't try to make a move on the family. However, if they decide to do so, Damien is ready to stop them, and he assures Victor that he has nothing to worry about. Victor acknowledges the assurance, and this is because he got to witness Damien's deadly swordsmanship. Victor then asks Damien where he learned to use a sword the way he did against the Black Snake gang. Damien cooks up a stupid lie, telling Victor that he only trained from time to time. Suddenly, Paul's voice echoes through the hallway as he charges toward Damien with rage. Paul has his sword hanging by his waist. This is a regular sword that he uses to beat Damien up, and he already calls it the love stick. Surprisingly, Paul just grabs Damien with worry, asking him where he has been since the day before. His father is worried that he has gone out to cause trouble again. Damien then assures his father that he already promised him that he was going to take care of the problem that he caused. Damien then tells Victor to show his father the money that they collected.
Victor does as told, and he also has the land deed with him. Damien's parents almost fainted from the sight of the treasures in front of them. In fact, Damien's mother lost her balance and had to be caught by Paul. Damien reveals that he went back to the bar he was kicked out of, and he made sure to clear up the misunderstanding. Damien claims everything went smoothly, and the bar owner even gave him the money and land deed as a token of apology. Paul is skeptical about what he just heard, and Damien assures him that it is the truth. His mother, on the other hand, believes him, and she tells her husband that there is no way Damien would have gotten such a huge amount of money if what he is saying is not the truth. Damien then tells his father that he is free to ask Victor if he doesn't believe him. Victor is shocked to see that he has been dragged into the conversation. Damien turns around to look at Victor and he winks at him, telling him to corroborate his story. Victor stammers while scratching his head, but he assures them that Damien is telling the truth. Once Victor is able to corroborate the story, Damien asks his father if he now believes him, but he remains skeptical. His mother, on the other hand, already believes him. His mother lets him know that she is proud of him. Victor just stands there watching everything unfold, and he can't believe how good a liar Damien is. Momentarily, Damien starts training his body. He knows that his body is weak and slow, but before he can do anything else about it, he wants to raise his stamina level. However, he was able to get his hands on a potion. This was a potion he collected from Anderson, and he claims that it was a tonic created by the Alchemy Academy to boost stamina and energy. The Alchemy Academy is basically a group specializing in making tonics. Their tonics are said to be so expensive that they are being traded at the same value as gemstones. Damien considers himself lucky to have gotten his hands on one. Damien opens the bottle, and he consumes the entire thing. The effect immediately kicks in, and his body starts brimming with energy. Damien decides that getting stronger will require him to build up his stamina. Damien plans to return to the level of the Death Knight because a few years from that moment, Dorgo and his undead army will show up. Damien plans to gather enough strength to be able to kill Dorgo before he shows up, because this is the only way he can protect his family's happiness. Damien continues his training after motivating himself that he will kill Dorgo no matter what. Meanwhile, at Black Snake's hideout, which is located in a cool but scary tower, the leader of the gang is a fat and chubby trash pile. When his men brought Ted to him, asking him what they should do with him, he simply told them to ditch him, even when they could have treated him and saved him. The boss, Cedric, considers it a shame that Ted is out of commission. One of his men asks again, but Cedric maintains his stand, telling them to dump Ted somewhere because he is of no use to them again. Cedric is confident that he can buy anyone as long as he is offering the right price to the said person. He is about to turn around and leave when Ted gets on his feet, revealing his disappointment. Cedric is surprised to see that Ted still has enough strength left in him to stand. Cedric then changes the plan, telling Ted to get himself treated and he will consider hiring him again. However, Ted is done with his BS. Ted grabs his sword and charges towards Cedric, aiming to send him to the afterlife. Suddenly, a dark energy grabs Ted and restrains him. Ted is shocked when he sees this, and just then a mage appears in the room, asking Cedric if he considers Ted the first target for their contract. Cedric immediately agrees to this, since he is curious to see what the mage is capable of. Ted screams at the mage, telling him to release him, but the mage mumbles some words, and the dark energy grabbing Ted suddenly amplifies. The dark energy turns into scary bats, and they sink their teeth into Ted. Ted screams in pain as the bat shreds him to pieces and consumes him, leaving a gross sight behind. The only thing left of Ted is his boot after the dark bats are done with him. Cedric and his men were thrown aback by this, and also by the disgusting smell coming from the aftermath of the incident. The mage then asks Cedric if he is satisfied with what he just saw. Cedric says yes, but urges the mage to do a cleaner job next time. The mage assures Cedric that he will, and then he asks him what the contract is all about. Cedric reveals that someone messed with his gang, but the said person is a noble, which makes it hard for him to deal with the person directly. Cedric wants the mage to help take care of the situation. He tells the mage to make sure that Damien suffers, and the higher his pain, the more money the mage gets. To show him how serious he is, Cedric gives the dude a pouch of money as an advance. The mage lights up in excitement, and he assures Cedric that he will take care of his problems for him. A few days later, Damien has improved his stats, and he is much stronger than before. He is glad that the tonic he took worked well. However, he is surprised that the Black Snake hasn't made a move for days, which is quite odd. Suddenly, he senses the presence of someone in the bushes behind him. Damien immediately believes that it is the Black Snake gang. He drops his bottle and reaches into the bushes to grab whoever is hiding there. He holds the dude by the neck and starts choking him before he realizes that he has the wrong person. The person he is choking is none other than his younger brother, Abel. Damien quickly drops his brother before he chokes him to death. Abel reveals his surprise that Damien has gotten stronger in just a matter of days since they haven't seen each other. Abel was genuinely worried that Damien was going to snap his neck. Staring at his brother,
Damien remembers how he died before he regressed, and this was him totally losing his head. Damien manages to snap out of this, and he stretches his hand to his brother, apologizing for grabbing him by the neck. Abel refuses to take his brother's hand, and he also adds that he is not there to hear an apology. Abel is there to confirm his father's story. He heard that Damien got an apology from the bar, but there was a fight that got many people injured. Abel doesn't believe that his brother is capable of doing such a thing, and he believes that Damien is now lying to them. Damien assures Abel that he is not lying. Abel still doesn't believe, and he screams at Damien, reminding him that he can't fight. Abel asks him if he hired someone to do it for him, but Damien maintains the fact that he was the one who did it. Abel screams at Damien, saying he can fool everyone else but not him. He points his finger at Damien while telling him not to do anything that will destroy the family. Abel talks about how Damien is always making messes and they have done nothing but help him clean them up. Just then, Damien pats Abel on the head. He knows that Abel is the noble son who is always doing everything to make sure that the family has nothing but the best. Abel angrily tells his brother to get his hand off his head. He tries pushing his hand, but he fails at this. Damien understands his fear but assures him that nothing bad will happen. He has not finished saying this when Victor comes rushing over to tell them that something bad is going down. The two are confused by this, but they soon understand when they enter the house. Sitting with his parents is the scum noble, who had something planned for Damien. He grins while telling Damien that he is only telling his parents about the things he did at the banquet hall the last time they saw each other. He claims that he had no choice but to come since his father already found out about it. This is when it dawned on Damien that he had messed with someone and totally forgot about it again. The scum noble is none other than Erwin Lionbloom, and he has a very disgusting smile on his face. Erwin asks him if he remembers what happened. Damien takes a trip down memory lane and remembers when he was in the banquet hall. Erwin had talked trash about his family, but he tried to act as if it was nothing. Damien was mad that Erwin insulted him and also dishonored his sister. Erwin shows no sign of remorse, and this pisses Damien off. He grabs a bottle, but Erwin still makes sure to provoke him further. He whispers in his ear, calling him a retard and assuring him that he didn't regret what he did. Damien knows that he shouldn't have fallen for his provocation, but he did, and he ended up hitting the dude. What Damien did basically made him fall into Erwin's trap. Erwin is now at his house, saying he wants retribution, and for this, he has always admired his sister Louise. Paul is shocked to hear this, and Erwin tells the man to allow the union between him and Louise. Everyone in the room is genuinely taken aback, but Damien already expected this. This was the same thing he did in his past life. He took advantage of the fact that Damien's family isn't wealthy like the other nobles. Erwin reveals that a marriage between him and Louise will make everything go away. Paul is scared, but he tells Erwin that he can't give him his daughter. Paul explains that Louise already has a fiancé, which makes it impossible for them to give her away. Erwin is already mad when he hears this, and he demands to know what they plan to do about the insult that he received. He asks Paul if his family can deal with his family's wrath. Erwin tells Paul to choose one. It is either they pay the price for insulting him or they choose him to marry Louise. Apparently, Lionbloom is one of the most powerful noble families in the kingdom. However, Paul is ready to face them, rather than let Erwin take away his daughter. Suddenly, Louise enters the room, telling Erwin that she agrees to follow him. Her family members are taken aback by this, and they start screaming, telling her not to make such a rash decision because they are determined to find a way out. While everyone else is busy screaming, Damien stays silent, and he thinks about how his sister is about to leave with Erwin again. Louise smiles and tells her family that she has no problem following Erwin. Erwin grins when he hears this, as his plan has finally worked. Erwin gets up from his seat, telling Louise that she is a truly wise person. He prepares to leave, but he assures them that he will send a formal request soon enough. Just as he is about to reach Louise, Damien intercepts him with rage burning through his body. Erwin smirks, asking Damien if there is anything he wants to add to the agreement they already have. He even teases Damien, asking him if he should start calling him brother-in-law. Damien cannot believe that the piece of trash ruined his sister's life in the past, and he is about to do it again. Damien mumbles some insult that shocks both Louise and Erwin. Erwin asks Damien what he just said, but before he can finish his sentence, Damien delivers an uppercut that sends him into the air. Just like before, Damien knows he shouldn't have fallen for his provocation because of his family, but he is not about to stand aside and watch Erwin mess with him. Erwin crashes to the ground in a very disgraceful pose. In his past life, Damien remembers when Erwin and Louise came to visit after they got married. Damien rushed to the door to see his sister since it's been a while. He opens the door and is about to start talking when he witnesses something horrific. Erwin was dragging Louise by her hair. Erwin complains that Louise is such a whiner and this is why he has brought her home. Erwin is pissed that Louise has the audacity to tell him that she wants a divorce. Louise's face is all battered from the everyday beating she is getting from Erwin. Even in her parents' house, Erwin is ready to beat her to a pulp to stop her from saying trash like that again.
Damien watched in horror as Erwin punched his sister repeatedly while he hid behind the door because there was nothing he could do about it. Damien knows that it was his fault that Louise was taken, and this time around, he is not ready to forgive Erwin for it. When Erwin's guards hear the noise coming from inside the room, they rush over to check. They are surprised to see their master lying on the ground with Damien standing over him. They immediately pull their weapons, asking Damien if he was the one who hurt their master. Erwin gets back on his feet and pulls his weapon. He is pissed that Damien has now hit his face twice. Erwin points his sword at Damien, telling him that he must really crave the taste of death. Erwin's guards tell him to calm down while they deal with Damien. They don't want Erwin to do anything since there are people watching. However, Erwin tells them to move because he wants to handle things himself. The red-headed guard tries to argue with Erwin, but he gets punched so hard by Erwin that he is sent into the wall. Erwin has totally lost it, and he is not about to let anything stand in his way. Erwin then walks toward Damien, asking him how he plans to resolve the situation at hand. Louise quickly figures out that Erwin is definitely not going to let Damien go, and already scared of what is going to happen, and she begs Erwin to stop, but Damien tells his sister that she has nothing to worry about, assuring her that he is going to handle everything. Damien is not about to let his sister sacrifice herself for him again. Damien then comes up with a resolution. He suggests that they engage in a duel. He tells Erwin that he will follow his instructions if Erwin wins the duel. If he wins, Erwin must forget everything that happened. Erwin then protests against this, saying the conditions do not benefit him in any way. Erwin mentions that Louise has already agreed to go with him. Damien then plays the noble game with him, asking him if he is scared to lose, which is why he is trying to twist things. This is enough to totally push Erwin to the wall. He cannot believe that Damien is acting all arrogant because he managed to catch him off guard. Erwin is already looking for a way to make Damien pay for his sins, and he concludes that the duel is the perfect way for that. He plans to cripple Damien and take his sister at the same time. Erwin smiles evilly while telling Damien that he accepts the duel. Soon, they head to the estate's training ground to hold the duel. Damien's mother is scared, and she urges her husband to stop Damien. The man is also scared, but he knows Damien must have something planned out, which is why he asked for the duel. And if this is not the case, he thinks the only thing they can pray for is a miracle. Abel, on the other hand, doesn't think his brother has a chance because Erwin is already on the level of an official knight. Abel is confident that his brother is going to lose to Erwin. Just when the duel is about to begin, Erwin notices that Damien is not holding a sword, and he asks him how he plans to defeat him without one. Damien assures Erwin that he doesn't need a sword to deal with him. He whips out a fork, revealing that this is all he needs to take him down. Everyone is genuinely shocked when they see this. His family members almost had a heart attack when they saw Damien holding a fork. Even Erwin bursts into laughter, telling Damien that he must have lost his mind due to fear. Erwin then tells Damien that he is not going to go easy on him, even though he doesn't have a sword. Erwin dashes toward Damien, and just before he can slash Damien, Damien moves out of the way, shocking him. However, Erwin is not ready to play games with Damien. He immediately activates one of his sword techniques, the fierce roaring lion sword. Erwin charges toward Damien with overwhelming attack power. He unleashes his technique, leaving a cloud of dust on the ground. However, when the dust clears up, Damien is still standing. Erwin's guards are shocked as they start to question how Damien managed to stay alive. Erwin knows he unleashed his deadly technique in a short burst of time, but he cannot believe that Damien dodged all of the basic moves that accompany his fierce roaring lion sword technique. Damien notices that Erwin is surprised, and he is pleased. He attributes this to the fact that he has been training over the past few days. In addition to this, he has also studied the Leonblum family's swordsmanship. Michael Lionblum is Erwin's brother, and before Damien regressed, he fought Michael. With what he has seen, he can confidently say Erwin is much weaker than Michael. Erwin finally decides to tap into one of his best techniques. He believes that Damien dodged his last move by sheer luck, but he is confident that he has no chance against what he is about to do. A swirling and terrifying aura emanates from Erwin's body. Even Damien knows that Erwin's move will be difficult to dodge because he has infused it with an aura. Erwin lunges at Damien, and while he is in the air, Damien figures out the best technique to use against Erwin's incoming attack. Damien picks the Sword Saint technique, and to everyone's surprise, Damien blocks Erwin's powerful technique with just his fork. This leaves a blinding light effect, but when everything clears off, Erwin is shocked to see his sword being pulled down with just a fork. Damien then activates another technique, the Countless Thunder Shadow Revelation. With this, he disarms Erwin and throws away his sword. Erwin is left open, and Damien charges at him with the fork with a terrifying killing intent written all over him. Damien reaches Erwin and pushes the fork towards his neck. Damien has everyone on their toes as he reaches for Erwin's neck with his fork. Surprisingly, Damien holds back from killing him. He only pushes the fork into the side of his neck to cause him pain. Erwin falls to the ground in pain, screaming like a kid. Damien is ready to kill Erwin because he deserves it, but he decides to let it go because of his family. Since he has won the duel, Damien believes that the issue has been sorted. Erwin's life flashed before his eyes, and because of this, he had no objections to Damien being the winner of the duel. All he sees is a scary man staring him in the face. Erwin almost shits his pants when Damien tells him to get lost. The next morning, Damien joins the family for breakfast. After eating a small portion of the food, he stands up to leave. He thanks them for the meal and tells them that he is out for more training. The entire room is silent until he steps out of the door. After he is gone, Marilda talks to her husband, asking him if he won't ask Damien about what transpired the night before. Abel, on the other hand, is losing his mind. He can't believe that his trash older brother, who was always weak, suddenly got stronger, and he was able to easily subdue a strong dude like Erwin. Abel has no choice but to accept the reality that his brother has become an entirely different person overnight. Marilda notices Abel's expression, and she calls her husband's attention to this. She suggests that they ask Damien how he got stronger. Paul then breaks his silence, telling everyone to chill out. He suggests that they leave Damien alone and not press him for answers. He is confident that Damien will tell him whatever secret he is hiding when the time comes. Marilda notices that Paul is not about to press the issue further, and she urges Abel to get himself together. Unknown to them, Paul is also curious. In fact, he is the most curious of all, but he is getting the feeling that he is not supposed to ask Damien about it. Even though Damien is his son, he has grown so scary that even Paul can feel it. Moments later, Damien is done preparing for training. He ties sandbags to his legs, and each sandbag weighs 10 kilograms. This sandbag is for his endurance training, and just as he is about to leave, he hears Louise call his name. Louise is glad that Damien is still in the house. She is holding a sword in her hand, and Damien rushes over to her. Louise mentions what happened the day before, but before she can talk any further, Damien comes to the conclusion that he is supposed to apologize. Louise is still searching for words when Damien bows his head, apologizing to his sister and telling her that he is sorry. Damien admits that he acted recklessly and put his sister in a very difficult situation. Damien assures his sister that something like this won't happen again, but Louise quickly stops him because he is totally misunderstanding the situation. Louise pats her brother on the shoulder and lets him know that she is thankful that Damien stood up for her. Louise confesses that she was actually scared. She said she was going to follow Erwin, but her heart was telling her something else. Damien is shocked to hear this, and he finally realizes what his sister truly wanted. Louise lets Damien know how glad she is that he stepped up to defend her. Louise smiles while telling Damien that she appreciates him. Damien heaves a sigh of relief and tells his sister that he should be the one thanking her for everything she has done for him. With this settled, Damien turns around to leave, but Louise stops him because there is one more thing. She shows Damien the sword in her hand. This is their father's favorite item, and he told Louise to give it to Damien so he can use it for training. Damien is shocked as he collects the sword. Louise lets him know that their father is not the best when it comes to expressing his feelings, but she assures him that their father loves Damien a lot. Louise has one more message from their father. Paul had sent Damien a message telling him that he is from a Viscountcy, and he is supposed to use a sword in a duel, not a fork. The man tells Damien not to do such again. While she is delivering the message, Damien can see his father's expression written all over Louise's face, and he almost passes out. Damien pulls out the sword and, with a smile on his face, thanks his father. Later that night, the guards are on their posts when they are suddenly hit by the dark energy from the Dark Mage. This causes them to lose their sense and pass out. The Dark Mage then infiltrates the house, and he lets his influence run into the house. This causes every single member of the family to pass out. Marilda is enjoying her sleep so much that she punches Paul in the face. The mage then makes his way to Louise's room. He licks his tongue like a proper pervert as he stares at the beauty lying down in front of him. He knows that he is there to honor the Black Snake's contract, but he considers himself a lucky person to have stumbled upon such beauty. Suddenly, he hears Damien's voice behind him, asking him what the F he is doing in his sister's room. The mage is shocked as he turns around to see Damien staring at him with so much killing intent emanating from his body. Damien reveals that he actually came to the room because he sensed a strange energy. And to his surprise, there is a strange dude in his sister's room. The mage is shocked because his magic should have put everyone in the house to sleep. He wonders why Damien is not affected by his magic. The mage is even more concerned with the fact that he wasn't able to detect Damien's presence until he came very close to him. The mage suddenly turns around and launches a surprise attack by shooting a magic blast from his hand. He hits the spot where Damien was standing, but Damien dodges the attack. The mage is stunned, and he is forced to ask Damien just exactly who he is. Damien then returns the question, reminding the dumb mage that he is the one trespassing in his house. The mage then asks if he is face to face with Damien, and he says yes. Once they have gotten the introductions out of the way, Damien asks the mage who he is and what he is trying to do to his sister. Just then, the mage hears the guards rushing toward the room. He realizes that his magic blast must have gotten their attention. The mage comes to the conclusion that it will be very bad for him if people meet him in the room. To avoid a situation where he has to deal with many people, the mage transforms into a mist and escapes through the window. Damien rushes to the window, but he is already gone. Damien is curious about what sort of energy the mage is using. The next morning, the servants arrive at the stable to find out that the prized horse is dead. They start freaking out because they don't know what to tell the Viscount. They believe that they are dead because the horse was fine the day before. They are still freaking out when Damien appears behind them, talking about how he had a bad feeling. The two almost die from a heart attack when they see a member of the family standing behind them. The two start to stutter, as they don't know how to explain the situation to Damien. Just then, Damien calms them down, telling them that he is just there to confirm something. He assures them that they won't be held responsible for the horse's death. However, he tells them to leave the stable for a little while. After they are gone, Damien assesses the situation. The trail of energy from the mage led him to the stable. After checking through very well, he realizes that the energy is dark mana. He puts 2 and 2 together to figure out that the mage he went up against is a dark mage. Since his family is not aware of the entire thing yet, Damien decides not to scare them by telling them. Damien locks in on the mana and he starts following it. It turns out that the dark mage is hiding out in a cave in the forest. The mage looks at the supplies he got from the boss of the Black Snake and he laughs out loud. He talks about how dumb Cedric is for gathering everything that he asked for. The mage lied to Cedric that the supplies were for a curse, but he was only lying to him. Apparently, he only gathered the materials to use for his stupid experiments. Nonetheless, he considers himself a fallen angel. He can't believe that he is now taking on low-tier requests just to earn some pocket change, although he has no choice but to take this route since the church is onto him. The mage knows that the best thing for him is to lie low for the time being. Suddenly, he hears Damien's voice behind him again. Damien lets him know that the smell he is giving off is so disgusting. Damien teases, urging him to create a window in the cave. The mage is shocked that he is facing the Viscount's son from yesterday again. The dark mage asks Damien how he managed to find the cave, and he reveals that he followed the stench he left behind. The mage is genuinely shocked when he hears this. He has heard rumors about how Damien went up against the Black Snake, but standing face to face with him, he finally realizes that Damien is not a reckless dude. Damien is glad that he didn't let his guard down. He figures out that the mage was hired by Black Snake. The dark mage admits that he was hired to inflict as much harm on his family as possible. Damien lets off an evil smile, telling the dark mage that he shouldn't have taken such a risky job because he's about to die for it. The dark mage is pissed when he hears this. The mage raises his hand in the air, conjuring a magic attack. He lets Damien know of his plan to capture him and keep him as his test subject. Damien then replies that he is not going to get the chance to capture him. He tells the mage that he already promised himself that in this life, he is not going to kill anyone unless he actually needs to. However, that promise has one exception. And this exception is that he is allowed to kill dark mages. Unfortunately, he is standing face to face with one, which means he has to go. The mage is shocked when he realizes that Damien has figured out that he is a dark mage. With this, he figures out that Damien is no ordinary person. The mage lets Damien know that he has no intention of letting him escape because if he does, he will just get him into trouble. He unleashes a bunch of magic attacks at Damien. However, Damien dodges everything and reaches the mage before he can even react. The mage is stunned when he sees Damien already poised to take him out. With nothing to do to escape the situation, he gets sliced in half. Surprisingly, his body starts to reassemble. Damien realizes that this is the same ability he witnessed at the estate when the mage came to raid it. Damien admits that the mage is pretty strong for someone who is accepting trash tasks. The mage comes back together, smiling, and tells Damien that his attack cannot work on him. This only gets Damien even angrier, as he lets the mage know that he is going to have to cut him down until there is no energy left for him to regenerate from. He thrusts his sword forward to shatter the mage's body again. The mage admits that Damien is a problem, but at the same time he is not worried. He tells Damien that he is already dead meat the moment he entered the cave by himself. Suddenly, Damien finds himself getting dragged by the mage's dark bats. It turns out that the mage already had the spell covering the entire cave, just in case the church tracks him down. The mage lets Damien know that he is about to regret crossing paths with a Yulin officer like himself. Damien is restrained to one spot while the dark bats work on him. The mage assures Damien that there is no escape for him because he is about to rot and die. The dark bats converge on Damien and consume him. The mage laughs, talking about how Damien caused his own death. The mage remembers what Cedric told him about the higher the damage, the higher his pay. He plans to add Damien's death to his achievements so he can get more money. The mage is glad that he has taken care of Damien, and he starts talking about his plan to go after Louise. Suddenly, he hears Damien's voice, asking him if he used a decomposing type curse on him. The mage is shocked as he turns around to see that Damien is unaffected. The curse has totally disintegrated from his body. The mage screams at Damien, asking him how much he knows about dark magic. Damien can see the surprise written all over the mage. Apparently, Damien is also surprised because he doesn't even know how he was able to survive the curse. Just then, he sees a magic circle on the back of his hand, and he realizes that there is still authority in him. Before regression, Dorgo cooked up a spell known as Authority. He reveals that it is a power that is so broken that it can be considered the power of a god. Since he has given his Death Knight the strongest body and the strongest magic there is, Dorgo was still not satisfied. He wants his Death Knight to become the strongest person to exist, and because of this, he grants him the power of authority. A blinding light appears from above and infuses itself into Damien's body. Damien screamed in pain as the power flowed into him, and after a flashy show-off, the process finally came to an end. With this, Damien was given the authority of a god. The authority he was given is the authority of greed. When Damien saw the magic circle on his hand, he realized that it was the same power that he had when he was a Death Knight. Damien already thought the power was gone when he regressed, but it turns out that it is still infused in him. Just then, the mage strikes him with another magic blast, demanding to know how he survived his curse. Damien manages to dodge the blast while telling the mage that they all have a trump card that they are hiding, and Damien's trump card is none other than plot armor. Since the mage said he is a Yulan officer, Damien gets more curious. This is because he has heard of the Yulan. They are a terrible organization that specializes in assassination using dark magic. Damien finally figures out why the mage is skilled. The mage, on the other hand, doesn't believe any trash about a trump card. His senses are telling him that something is off about Damien. He figures out that he needs to end things quickly to avoid the situation getting dragged further. The mage then decides to use something he was saving for when he faced the church. He has a bracelet on his arm, and it starts to glow. Damien is surprised to see that the mage also has a trump card of his own. Once the bracelet kicks into effect, a bright green light consumes the room. This genuinely catches Damien's attention as he realizes that the mage just tapped into a large amount of dark mana. Damien figures out that the bracelet is an artifact that stores and conceals mana. With this, the mage unleashes a terrifying spell. He tells Damien that there is no way he can handle the power he is about to unleash. He unleashes the spell and shoots it directly at Damien, telling him to burn and die. A large beam of fire and magic blasts hits Damien, and the mage smiles, because he believes that it is over. He believes that he has nothing to worry about because Damien has just been hit with hellfire that burns eternally, even in death. Just then, Damien's voice echoes from the remnant of the fire. He tells the mage that he has totally misunderstood the situation. The mage is shocked to see Damien still standing even though the fire hit him directly. Damien then lets him know that the authority of greed doesn't actually dispel magic. Damien looks absolutely terrifying as a green aura emanates from his body. The mark of authority on his hand also glows furiously as he aura farms in front of the mage. Damien then reveals that the authority of greed absorbs all dark mana without leaving anything. Damien's eyes glow as he stares into the mage's soul. The mage is shocked because he knows what the authority means. He wonders why someone like Damien has such a terrifying power. Damien then tells the mage that he doesn't have to worry himself about this, but he should see the situation as him having better gear. Damien takes a striking pose, ready to cut down the mage. He is frustrated that he has to use the power given to him by the person he absolutely disgusts. However, he is ready to use the power if it means it will help him take down the annoying mage standing in front of him. Damien is willing to tap into his Death Knight techniques if he makes him strong enough to totally annihilate the Dark Mage. Damien infuses his blade with aura, shocking the mage. He knows that Aura Blade is a sword technique that is only available to those who have reached the realm of Swordmaster. He wonders how Damien is able to acquire such a technique. He is still thinking about this when Damien unleashes the soul-severing slash. The mage has no way of escaping as the aura from the slash reaches him. The attack hits him so hard that he cuts him in half and crushes the essence of his soul. Before the Dark Mage finally loses whatever strength and energy is left in him, Damien demands to know the Black Snake's hideout. Not long after this, Damien and Victor head to Landwork. Victor asks Damien why he is going back to Landwork. Damien then tells Victor to follow him quietly if he has intentions of staying longer by his side. Victor then teases his boss, saying he looks refreshed, but the book he is reading is totally ominous. Victor is right because the book looks absolutely terrifying, as if it has a human face on it. Victor asks Damien what the book is, and Damien reveals that the book is a magic grimoire, which he recently obtained. He got the grimoire after he killed the annoying Dark Mage. Victor believes that Damien is joking around. He admits that he might be illiterate, but he knows one thing. He is aware that dark magic grimoires are very difficult to obtain, so there is no way his boss will get his hands on one. However, Victor notices that there is a foul smell in the area. When they finally arrive at Landwork, Damien tells Victor that there is something he wants him to do for him. It turns out that the smell from the carriage is coming from the bag Damien is holding in his hand. Victor asks Damien about the contents of the bag, and Damien reveals that it is a person's head. Victor laughs at this again, believing that Damien is messing around as usual. He decides to open the bag, and this is when he is left in absolute shock. Inside the bag is the dark mage's head. Before he can throw the bag away in panic, Damien grabs it from him and shushes him, telling him to keep his mouth shut. He reminds Victor that they are in public, and he assures Victor that he is going to explain later. However, there is something that he wants Victor to do for him first. He picks out a note and tells Victor that he wants him to deliver the note and the head inside the bag to a certain location. He lets Victor know that he won't get into any trouble if he does this. After the two part ways, Damien heads to the Black Snake's headquarters. Damien is impressed that Cedric has actually placed his headquarters in the middle of the city. At the entrance are two stern-looking gangsters, and they demand to know Damien's business at the place. Damien then introduces himself, and just the mention of his name catches their attention. They realize that Damien is the dude their boss was talking about. Damien is relieved that they already know about him. Since they know this, he tells them to move aside without a fuss because he has business with their boss, not them. The dudes tease him, telling him to walk past them and just enter the building. Just then, one of them whips out a flare gun and fires a shot in the air. Damien is shocked, but he is genuinely confused because he doesn't know what the guards just did. Just then, a bunch of mages appear in the shadows. In addition to this, thugs come out from where they are hiding. It turns out that Cedric had already prepared something just in case Damien showed up. Damien finds himself surrounded by gangsters and corrupt mages, but there is no ounce of fear in him. He is even confident that the lot will regret going against him. He reaches into the bag to whip out something that he stored there. Meanwhile, inside the headquarters, Cedric is hosting the governor of the city, Sebastian Baker. Accompanying him is the knight of the city, Robert. Cedric assures the governor and the knight that he is happy to host them. The governor is enjoying the meal, the drink, and the girls. This gets so much into his head that he proposes a new business deal for Cedric. He tells him about the merchant places that the other syndicates had. He tells Cedric that he is free to take over all of the merchant places. Cedric is shocked to hear this, and the governor assures him that he is free to take control of everything. Cedric lets the governor know that he is happy with the arrangement, but he is worried that the other syndicates will protest against this. Sebastian tells Cedric that he has nothing to worry about because he can easily suppress any protest with his authority. Robert also joins the conversation, telling Cedric that he wishes there was something he could do for him too. Cedric smiles, letting Robert know that there is no need for this since he is already working hard to protect the city. Robert blushes when he hears this, and the governor lets Cedric know that they are willing to give him whatever it is that he needs. Robert and Sebastian continue drinking and eating to their heart's content. Deep down, Cedric is acting like a fool because of what he actually wants. He knows that he just needs to play his game a little longer, and he won't have to bow to Sebastian and Robert again. Cedric is planning to take over the entire city, and when this happens, they will be the ones bowing to him instead. Suddenly, one of Cedric's boys barges into the room. This pisses Cedric off as he reminds the dude that he has guests. The guard apologizes but lets Cedric know that there is something important that he needs to tell him. Cedric steps away from the table to hear what the dude has to say. The guard then whispers in his ear, telling him that Damien has arrived at the headquarters. Cedric is shocked to hear this, and he remembers hiring the dark mage to take care of him. He is glad that he hired some people in advance and didn't fully rely on the dark mage's words. Cedric tells the guard that he is free to go and that they have nothing to worry about. Since Damien came to the headquarters himself, Cedric believes that it is time for him to die. Outside the building, Damien juices up on a couple of stamina-boosting tonics. In just a single run, he cuts through the gangsters in front of him. He leaves some headless, while some are cut in half. As he separates their body parts, Damien is not worried even if things don't go his way. Apparently, he has a plan in store already. Cedric soon steps out of the building, and he stands on the balcony to check out how his men are faring. To his greatest surprise, Damien is trashing them like they are nothing. He is taken aback in fear and surprise. He can't believe that Damien single-handedly took out a bunch of his guys. He is forced to ask his subordinate if Damien is really who he said he is. The dude confirms this, but Cedric is confused even more. Damien is known as the good-for-nothing son, but Cedric never knew he was this skilled. It suddenly dawns on him that the dark mage is not there, which means he might have been terminated too. Cedric soon realizes that things are about to get out of hand, and he needs to get help. He rushes back into the building, leaving his subordinate in confusion. Damien soon finds himself going up against the mages. They have a magic staff with them, and they are confident that Damien can't block their attack. They launch a powerful fireball at Damien, but he doesn't move an inch from where he is. He directs his sword toward the incoming attack, leaving the mages to laugh in his face. They make fun of Damien for trying to stop their flames with his sword. To their surprise, Damien catches the flame attack with his sword by using a secret move, Countless Thunder Shadow Revelation. Damien then controls the flame and sends it back to the mages. This hits their position and leaves a loud explosion. The mages fail to dodge the attack, and they are all charred to death. Once he has taken out all of the small fries, Damien prepares to enter the headquarters and fish out the boss of the organization. Suddenly, he senses a powerful aura coming close to him. Damien is able to react just in time, and he dodges the punch aimed at him. Damien leaps backward and stares at the new stranger, who has just arrived on the scene. Damien realizes that the dude is dangerous because even his aura is basically prickling his skin. The stranger turns out to be Robert, and the aura from his body is so overwhelming that Damien immediately figures out that he is up against an official knight. As if this is not enough, Damien soon finds himself surrounded by a bunch of soldiers. Damien is shocked to see a knight in such a lowly place. The presence of soldiers also means that there is someone important there. This is when he hears the governor's voice roaring from a distance. Sebastian demands to know why Damien is causing trouble in the middle of the city. Sebastian promises Damien that he is going to be punished for this. Damien is surprised to hear this, and he rudely asks the governor to confirm if he just said he is going to be punished. Sebastian claims that Damien has done damage to the city. Sebastian claims that Damien attempted to kill Cedric, who is just a kind businessman. In addition to this, he attacked Cedric's company, terminating a bunch of his employees. While the governor is busy saying his trash, the bystanders are surprised to hear him address Cedric as a businessman. Everyone knows that Cedric is a lowly gangster, but Sebastian is making it seem like he is a good person. After saying all the trash that he wants to say, Sebastian tells Damien that his offenses are unforgivable. Cedric is glad with the way things are going because he knows that he is under the governor's protection and Damien won't be able to get to him. Damien finally realizes that Cedric is the dude he has been looking for. He politely tells him to come over so he can punch him in the head. Cedric cannot believe how impudent Damien is. Damien already had his suspicions that Black Snake had some connection within the city's administration, but with what he just witnessed, he realizes that they are basically worshipping Cedric at this point. Damien then gets on their nerves again. He tells Sebastian that he is a very funny man to have called a trash like Cedric a kind businessman. Sebastian screams at Damien, telling him to keep his mouth shut. He lets him know that he will be willing to reduce his sentence if he begs for forgiveness. Damien then replies that he sees no reason why he should beg, since he didn't commit a crime. This crushes Sebastian's ego, and he decides to punish Damien for it. He lets him know that he already tried to be lenient, but he made things hard. Sebastian then calls on Robert to deal with Damien. Robert acknowledges the order and he steps forward. He walks toward Damien, asking him to drop his weapon and submit himself to arrest. Damien simply laughs at the dude, and he teases him about being the guardian knight. Damien's words hit Sebastian so hard, but he realizes something. He notices that Damien is not showing any sign of fear. He asks Damien if he is bold or just outright stupid. Damien simply replies, telling Sebastian that he is confident. Sebastian laughs when he hears this, and he calls Damien a fool. He immediately swings his weapon at Damien, aiming to strike him. Damien manages to dodge, but this leaves his last position shattered from Sebastian's strike. Damien knows within himself that he is only being confident, but when it comes to battle, he is no match for Sebastian. Damien decides that the only thing he needs to do is hold out until the right time arrives. However, Damien loses concentration while thinking about this, and it leaves him open. Before he knows it, Sebastian has reached him. Sebastian almost catches him with his powerful attack, but Damien still manages to react. He tries blocking the attack before escaping with a backflip. He lands on his knees and realizes that his arm is burned. This gets him worried because he tried his best to deflect the attack, but he still got injured. He starts to wonder where his plan B is. Suddenly, Sebastian reaches him again, asking him where he is looking. At this point, Damien finally realizes just how fast Sebastian is. Damien is about to have his head crushed when someone suddenly appears to block the attack with just their arm. The strange person parries Sebastian's attack, causing his weapon to fall to the ground. Everyone is shocked when they see this, and Sebastian reveals his surprise that Damien had an associate. Sebastian then demands that the newest arrival introduce themselves. The stranger takes off their hood, and it turns out to be a girl dressed in shining armor. She looks absolutely terrifying, and just by seeing her, sweat runs down Sebastian's face. He realizes that the lady standing in front of him is a freaking paladin. Just then, Damien hears Victor rushing over to him. Damien smiles, asking Victor why he came so late. Victor is accompanied by two other strange-looking men in hoodies. Victor grins while telling his master that he has finally arrived. Cedric cannot believe that a paladin just joined the equation. This basically tells him that the church is now involved in the whole thing. He wonders if they already know that he made a deal with the dark mages. On the other hand, Damien is just glad that his servant is back. He plays with Victor by tickling his cheeks. Victor asks him if he is fine, but Damien claims that he is not because he had to wait too long. He jokingly asks Victor if he is eager to get fired. Damien is impressed with the presence of the paladin. Damien then tells Victor that he is glad that he did what he asked of him. Victor smiles, assuring Damien that he can always handle his chores. A few hours earlier, Victor had rushed to the church just like Damien instructed him to. He got there to find them praying. He is out of breath already, but he quickly asks them if he is in the branch of the Holy Church. The paladin, who is dressed in a nun's outfit, walks up to him and tells him that he is in the right place. She then demands to know why he has come. Victor revealed that he came to deliver a message from his master. He has the note and the mage's head with him, and he hands them over to the paladin. Victor says Damien told him that the items he is holding are evidence that someone is working with the dark mage. The paladin immediately becomes interested when she hears this. She collects the note from Victor, and even though the energy from the note is already fading, she is able to figure out that what she is sensing is dark magic. She notices a symbol on the edge of the note, and she grabs the bag from Victor. She looks inside and grabs the head to see that it is the head of the dark mage. Victor senses the rage coming from the paladin as she realizes that she is staring at the head of Agito, one of the leaders of Yulan, whom they have been after. The paladin immediately becomes interested in who sent Victor to her and removes her cape to reveal the paladin armor she is wearing underneath. Now that she is in the presence of Damien, she looks totally different. She is acting like a girl and not a warrior, leaving Victor to wonder if she is truly the same person he met at the church. The paladin assures Damien that the church has received the evidence that he sent, and they will now be the ones to oversee things. Damien assures the paladin that he is ready to leave everything to them. The paladin thanks him for the understanding, and she bows to him out of respect. Damien is glad that the paladin is there because everything is going as he planned it. Paladins are known to live their lives as servants of God. They are merciful people who are always carrying out charities to help the poor. However, when it comes to taking care of demons and heretics, paladins won't hesitate to light their own souls on fire. They are basically a bunch of fanatics, and they are also the vanguards of the church. Damien is so proud that one of the paladins is now on his side. Just then, the paladin walks forward to address everyone there. She tells the citizens and the soldiers that the church has received a report about someone who made contact with the wanted dark mage, and this said person is currently in landwork. The citizens are shocked to hear that there is the presence of a dark mage in the city. The paladin then mentions that while investigations are ongoing about this, the church will be in charge of the city. Sebastian is shocked to hear this, and he protests the decision, telling the paladin that Landwork is a city that was granted permission to self-govern by the kingdom. Sebastian doesn't want to relinquish authority to the church while he is still in the city. The paladin then informs Sebastian that vanquishing heretics is the will of God, and because of this, the authority of the church overrules that of the kingdom. Sebastian continues to argue until the paladin mentions that he and his knight are prime suspects in their investigations. Sebastian is shocked to hear this, and he tries telling the paladin that they have no reason to work with a dark mage. The paladin then points to Cedric, telling them that he was the one who hid and supported the dark mage. The paladin lets them know that just by protecting the dark mage, they have already doomed themselves. Sebastian is genuinely shocked by this, and he asks Cedric if what the paladin says is the truth. Cedric denies this, saying he doesn't have a reason to do so. Just then, the paladin reveals that there is evidence that counters what he said. Since he is denying it, the paladin brings out the notebook that was sent to her. She lets Cedric know that the notebook is a record of him buying items for the dark mage. Every single item that he bought is written down in the book. The paladin tells Cedric that all they need to do is cross-check all of this at the stores to know if he is lying or not. Cedric realizes that they already have him backed against a wall. He curses Egito and questions why he would even write down the items. Cedric continues feigning ignorance, telling the paladin that he has nothing to do with the dark mage. The paladin doesn't argue with him, and she orders her men to arrest Cedric, Sebastian, and Robert. It finally dawns on Sebastian that Damien had everything planned out all along. Damien smiles at him like a villain as he is being led away. Sebastian realizes that he will be tortured really hard if he is taken to the church. Cedric then tries to play a risky game. He screams at Robert, asking him if he is going to surrender and allow himself to be taken away so easily. Cedric continues adding fuel to the fire by telling Robert he is being framed for what he doesn't know. As they are being led away, Robert spots his axe, and he decides to take a very drastic decision. He breaks his handcuffs and discards the two soldiers beside him. Once he is free, he makes a run for his axe. He grabs it and threatens to kill every last member of the church so he can escape. The first person he goes after is the paladin, as he imbues his body and weapon with aura, ready to wipe out the lady. Cedric and his accomplices smile, believing that Robert has it in the bag. On the other hand, Damien knows that Robert is making a very big mistake that will cost him. The paladin dodges Robert's attack, and she reacts so fast that Robert can't even comprehend. She lets him know that he has made a foolish mistake, and within the blink of an eye, the paladin punches him so hard that it breaks through his armor and his aura-imbued body. Just a single punch from the paladin breaks through Robert's body, impaling him. Robert's accomplices are shocked when they witness the brutal strength of the paladin. Damien, on the other hand, just smiles because he knows how ruthless and powerful paladins can be. With her hand sticking out of his body, she leaves him with a cold line. Those who disobey the will of God, whoever it may be, will be punished, God willing. With this, Robert's body crashes to the ground, and the paladin stands above him, looking overwhelmingly terrifying. With no one else to resist, Cedric and Sebastian are easily taken. Cedric has his face buried in the sand, while Sebastian is still trying to maintain his status as the governor. Victor asks Damien if Cedric is Black Snake's boss, and he says yes. Victor mocks Cedric, saying he is just a fat arse like him, with no aura. Cedric is dying of frustration where he is, but there is nothing he can do. Damien then thanks the paladin, saying everything was sorted pretty easily. Damien knows that she is strong, but he didn't expect her to be that strong. Judging by her sacred power, Damien figures out that she is probably an apprentice of the Azure Flame. Apparently, the Azure Flame is the strongest person in the church, and he is one of the 5 great saints. The Azure Flame is known for taking down numerous heretics. The paladin then walks up to Damien, expressing her gratitude on behalf of the church. Damien acts modestly, telling the paladin that he was just doing what any regular citizen would do. The paladin then lets Damien know that the church acknowledges his effort and will not charge him with any crime. Damien plays dumb when the paladin says this. The paladin then reveals that she is aware that he intentionally got the church involved to cover up his attack on the Black Snake. Damien is impressed that the paladin saw right through his intentions. Damien is forced to own up to this, and he bows to the paladin, apologizing if he had offended her with his words. Damien reveals that the Dark Mage caused trouble in his family's territory, and he even tried to harm his family. The paladin thinks over it and then tells Damien that she has no intentions of holding him accountable. Damien is pleased to hear this, and he realizes that the paladin is actually more flexible than he thought. The paladin then reveals that the bounty on Agato's head will also be given to Damien. Damien is surprised by this, since he didn't know that there was a bounty in the first place. He asks the paladin how much the bounty is, and she reveals that it is 1,000 gold coins. Victor is blown away by this huge amount of money because it is enough to buy a small castle. Damien is tempted by the money, but he lets the paladin know that he has something else to request. He asks her if there is a possibility that he gets something else instead of the bounty money. Victor cannot believe that Damien is about to turn down a huge sum of money after all the money he has blown away. The paladin then tells him that it is actually possible for him to get something else. She asks him what he wants, and he reveals that he would like one of the mana cultivation techniques held by the church. The paladin is shocked by this. She mentions that Damien is strong enough to wipe out the Black Snake by himself, but he still wants a mana cultivation technique. Apparently, Damien noticed something important after he fought the Dark Mage. He realized that he was only lucky to have won against Agato because of the power of authority. Since he will have to go against even stronger enemies in the future, Damien realizes that he needs to reach higher levels. He figures out that he needs the mana training techniques that are used by knights. Damien tells the paladin that he has only learned basic level techniques, which is why he is asking for this, so he can master something more advanced. The paladin is absolutely shocked when she realizes that Damien reached his current level with basic cultivation techniques. The paladin takes a closer look at Damien and realizes that there is a considerable aura flowing within his body already. She concludes that Damien is extraordinary if what he is saying is the truth. The paladin also puts together the fact that Damien is willing to cut down a heretic without thinking twice. Because of this, she decides to propose an offer to Damien. She tells Damien that there is a better alternative for him to get even stronger. Damien is shocked to hear this, and the paladin asks Damien if he would be willing to become a paladin. She says this with so much enthusiasm, but Damien bluntly refuses the offer, saying he is not interested. The paladin cannot believe that she just got rejected. She asks him why he won't consider being one, since this is considered to be the greatest honor that allows an individual to punish evil. The paladin looks absolutely scary while saying this, and Victor hides behind Damien. Damien, on the other hand, remains unbothered, as he is not ready to be intimidated by the lady. Damien is someone who has never believed in religious faith. In addition to this, he is clearly not interested in becoming a dog for the church. He imagines getting sent on errands to go after heretics. Since he can't say this to the paladin's face, Damien decides to come up with a sad excuse. Damien claims that he is not yet worthy of receiving the love of God. He then adds that he only wishes to travel the world and follow the traces of the divine as a humble devotee. Victor cannot believe that this is the best lie that his master can come up with. Victor already sees the paladin seeing through his dumb lies. Surprisingly, the paladin holds Damien's hands in excitement, saying this is the first time she will hear such holy words. Victor cannot believe his eyes when he realizes that the lie actually worked. The paladin then tells Damien that the church will provide a mana cultivation technique instead of the bounty. However, she hopes that Damien will change his mind one day and come back to the church to become a paladin. The paladin then asks for one more thing. After their lengthy, boring conversation, the paladin finally decides to introduce herself. She reveals that her name is Agnes, and she is the first apprentice of the Azure Flame. Damien's face lights up in excitement when he hears this because he was right. Damien returns the gesture, telling Agnes that it is an honor to meet her. Damien then asks Agnes if he is free to conclude his business. Agnes is confused as she doesn't know what business he is talking about. However, she lets him know that he is free to do as he pleases. Just then, Damien walks up to Cedric. Cedric is still talking trash when Damien kicks him in the guts. The kick is so painful that it causes Cedric to throw up. Damien mocks Cedric, telling him that his belly is so fat that it feels like punching a cushion. He is about to call Damien a piece of trash when Damien kicks him in the head to send him flying. He crashes into the ground, leaving Victor and Agnes shocked. After he is done beating him up, Damien tells Agnes that he is finally satisfied. Victor then walks up to his master, asking him if it is finally over. Damien says yes, but he is not completely sure. At the estate of the Leon Bloom family, the head of the house and father to Irvin Holland is surprised when he arrives at the estate to find his son trembling in his bed. Holland rushes over to him, asking him what happened to him. In tears, Irwin reveals that he almost died at Damien's hands. Holland cannot believe that his cheerful son is now trembling in terror. Holland demands an explanation from the guard. He then reveals that it was Damien who beat Irwin up. Holland angrily throws one of his vases when he hears this. He cannot believe that someone from such a lowly family would dare touch his son. He believes that his son was defeated thanks to some cheap tricks. Enraged, he immediately orders that knights should be sent to the Haxon estate to bring Damien to him like a dog. Meanwhile, Damien has returned home, but he is escorted by Agnes and her people. Paul and his wife welcome them, but deep down, he is furious that his son brought a fanatic to the house. Paul tries to act cool, telling Agnes that his son already told him that she will be coming to stay at the estate for a while. Agnes then tells the man that it is a decision that was made so that they can investigate the heretic. Paul tries to chase them away by saying the house is small, so there might not be enough rooms for them to stay in. Paul immediately swallows this up when Agnes brings out a big bag of money as a token of gratitude. Paul lets them know that they are free to make themselves at home and rest wherever they want to. After they are done with his father, Agnes walks up to Damien, thanking him for allowing the investigation team to stay in their estate. Apparently, this was the request she asked for when she told the dude that she had another request to make of him. Just then, Agnes tells Damien that she would like to ask him something else. Just like before, she urges him to become a member of the church and spread the gospel. On the other hand, Damien's parents believe that Agnes is trying to woo their son. Moments later, Agnes gives Damien the mana cultivation manuals that he requested. She assures him that the manuals are specially selected to fit what he wants. Damien thanks her for the help, but he is surprised that Agnes is giving him 2 books. Agnes then reveals that one of the manuals is a sword technique manual. She didn't think it would feel right to give Damien a cultivation manual without a matching sword technique. Damien knows he doesn't need the sword technique manual, but at the same time he doesn't see any problem in having it. The book is titled The Destructive Sword Technique, and the second one is Destructive Energy Technique. Damien is surprised because he never saw the books in his past life. Agnes lets Damien know that it was not easy to acquire the books, and Damien thanks her once again for the books. Agnes goes further by saying it was hard getting the books because there was a lot of opposition from the church. She was only able to get the books with the help of her master, the Azure Flame. Apparently, Azure Flame was interested in Damien when Agnes told him about Damien. He mentioned that Damien is the kind of chosen one that the church needs. Because of this, Agnes asks again if Damien would consider becoming a paladin. Damien maintains his stand, telling Agnes that he is not interested in becoming a paladin. Agnes is forced to back off, and she assures Damien that she will not ask again to avoid being tagged a troublemaker. Nonetheless, she hopes that Damien changes his mind one day, and when he does, she tells him to come find her. As she walks away, Damien is only able to confirm the fact that Agnes is nothing but a fanatic. Later on, the church investigative team heads to Agado's hideout to carry out their investigation. One of them raises the issue that bothers him. Apparently, he doesn't believe the fact that Damien was the one who killed Agito because Agito is a really powerful mage who has been evading the church for quite some time. His colleague agrees with him, saying Agito might be weak when it comes to combat, but he is still a powerful dark mage, and there is no way someone like Damien will kill him. The two are convinced that Damien is a liar, but since Agnes already believed him, there is nothing they can do about it. The two start debating whether they should raise it as a concern. Suddenly, Agnes appears behind them, telling them that they can actually trust Damien. The two are shocked to see the lady showing up out of nowhere. Agnes understands their doubts, but she lets them know that Damien didn't lie. One of the dudes mentions that it is difficult for him to believe that Damien killed Agito. Agnes then reminds her colleagues that Damien already told them how he did it. Damien had explained that he dodged Agito's attack and then cut off his head. This sounds like a total piece of trash to the two, who know that there is no way Damien took out Agito like that. Agnes then reveals that on the day that Damien sent Agito's head to them, she also doubted his skills. This was why she stayed back and observed Damien fight the Black Snake goons. She watched as he fought dozens of men without sustaining any damage. Agnes reveals that she also witnessed Damien deflect a fireball, which is basically a magic spell. The two are shocked when they hear this, as it is something that is considered to be impossible. Agnes then tells them that it is actually possible. Agnes learned that those who reach the level of Swordmaster can block attacks of any kind, and this includes magic. When they hear this, they suspect that Damien might be a Swordmaster, but Agnes rules out the possibility of this. However, Agnes is pretty sure that Damien is an extraordinary warrior. Apparently, Agnes's motive for coming with them for the investigation was to try and convince Damien to meet with Azure. Agnes is pretty confident that Damien can become a great asset to the church. After telling them all of these, she urges them to set aside their doubts and focus on the investigation. Meanwhile, knights from Leon Bloom are approaching the territory already. There are two apprentice knights, Lavender and Opus. And then leading them is an official knight, Garrick. As they approach the Haxon estate, Garrick reminds his subordinates of the mission given to them by Marquis Holland. They were only given instructions to capture Damien, but Garrick thinks this will be too easy. He plans to punish Damien for everything that he did to soil the family's name. They ride past an innocent old man, and Garrick decides to stop. He asks the old man if he is a resident of the Haxon's estate, and the old man says yes. He is still about to ask why they want to know this when his head suddenly flies off. Garrick cuts off his head without provocation or disrespect from the innocent old man. Garrick justifies his actions by saying the old man didn't bow to him after seeing the Leon Bloom's crest that he carries. Even his subordinates believe that Garrick went too far because the old man was blind. However, they don't have the guts to say this out loud to avoid ending up like the poor old man. Garrick then tells Lavender and Opus that he has a very good idea. He wants them to drag out Damien when they reach the estate, and afterward, wipe out everyone in the estate. Victor is busy doing his chores when he turns around to see three scary knights approaching him. On the other hand, Agnes and the investigation team are forced to leave Agato's hideout because it came crashing down. They are about to leave when they spot Damien meditating on a rock. Agnes is blown away by what she is looking at, even though she doesn't know what it is. Agnes knows that the destructive energy technique that she gave Damien should be a cultivation method that allows one to absorb mana from the surrounding area. However, Agnes is blown away that Damien is able to do this in just a couple of hours. When Damien opens his eyes, he is shocked to see Agnes and her subordinates staring at him in amazement. Damien then walks up to Agnes, asking her if she is done with the investigation, and she says yes. Agnes mentions that Damien has made some progress with what she is seeing. Damien replies that he has made progress, but it is just a little. Damien finally realizes why Agnes said it was difficult to procure the book, because the method inside the book is extremely useful for him. Apparently, the destructive energy technique was created to compensate for the heavy mana consumption of the destructive sword technique. Because of this, Damien has been able to gather mana faster than the other techniques available to him. In fact, he is able to temporarily draw in external mana. It soon turns into an awkward situation between the two after they are done talking about cultivation methods. Agnes is about to suggest having dinner together when Damien suddenly smells a dreadful bloodlust in the air. He immediately figures out that a troublemaker has arrived in the territory. Damien tells Agnes that he has something he has to deal with and will head back to the house first. He lets Agnes know that she is free to come back to the estate at her own pace. After saying this, Damien dashes off like a speedster, leaving Agnes and her subordinates in shock. Agnes figures out that Damien is controlling his mana with extreme precision, as this is the only way he should be able to move that fast. At the estate, Victor is getting pummeled by the knights from Leon Bloom. Even though he is getting battered by knights, he refuses to give up the location of his master. Victor says he is not ready to tell them where Damien is because they are trying to hurt him. Just then, Paul comes out of the house, and he runs toward the knights, telling them to leave Victor alone. Paul grabs Victor, asking him if he is fine. In anger, Paul screams at the knights, asking them why they are hurting a civilian without provocation. Garrick then claims that what he just did to Victor is nothing compared to the dishonor that Damien brought to the house of Lion Bloom. With a scary tone, Garrick lets Paul know that they are there to take Damien away. Garrick assures Paul that they won't touch anyone else in the estate once Damien is handed over to them. Paul actually expected some sort of retaliation from Lion Bloom, but he didn't expect them to go this low. At the same time, Paul knows that Garrick is just lying because the moment he hands over his son, they are basically going to turn the entire estate into a pool of blood. With a bold voice, Paul tells Garrick that he is not ready to hand over his son. Garrick asks Paul if he is sure about the decision he wants to make since he will definitely regret it, and Paul says he is not changing his mind. Since this is what Paul is standing on, Garrick tells his subordinates to destroy everything in the estate until they find Damien. Paul is still screaming at them to stop when a terrifying voice echoes from behind, asking them if they have lost their minds. It turns out to be Damien, who is walking toward them with an overwhelmingly crippling aura. He looks absolutely pissed, and even Garrick can feel the killing intent oozing from his body. Garrick's subordinates suddenly realize that they can't move, all thanks to Damien's scary aura. None of them is able to move until Damien walks past them to get to Victor and his father. Damien asks his father if he is fine, and he says yes, but he is worried about Victor, who has been beaten to a pulp. Damien then tells the knights that they are very lucky that Victor has a sturdy body, or else he would have died. And if Victor had died from a result of their beating, he lets them know that he would have ended them right there. It finally dawns on Garrick that the person in front of them is Damien. He believes that Damien is feeling lucky just because he beat up Erwin by using cheap tricks. Garrick then orders his men to go after Damien and make sure that he bows to him. Ulpus and Lavender do as told, and they both rush toward Damien. Realizing that the knights are not ready to learn some manners, Damien decides to beat it into them. He grabs the nearest knight and restrains him. He has been looking for a way to try out the mana that he just collected, and since they have shown up, Damien sees them as the perfect test subjects. He twists his target's hand before punching him in the chest so hard that it sends a wave of pain through his armor. Once he is done with Lavender, he goes after Ulpus. He delivers a kick right under his jaw that sends him flying. Without stress, Damien takes out both knights, leaving Garrick shocked. Just then, Victor wakes up, and he calls Damien. Damien turns and asks him if he is fine. Victor smiles at his master before giving him a thumbs up. The moment Damien sees this, he smiles because he knows what this means. He admits that his servant is quite an interesting person. Garrick gets off his horse and walks toward Damien. He finally realizes that he might not have defeated Erwin with trash tricks, but he is still confused as to how someone like him has such amazing skills. Damien then replies that Garrick doesn't need to know this. Suddenly, Garrick starts laughing, saying he has put together all the puzzles. He points to Damien, saying he is not the real Damien Haxon. Everyone watching is genuinely confused about this, and Damien asks Garrick what he means by he is not the real him. Garrick screams at the top of his voice, telling Damien not to lie to him. He believes that everything has been set up by those who hate the Leonblum family to stop them from prospering. Garrick maintains his stance that Damien is not the real Damien. He believes that he is staring at an imposter who has been hired to trash Erwin and destroy the name of the Leonblum house. Garrick angrily pulls out his sword, ready to punish Damien for messing with the Leonblums. Damien is utterly disappointed, as he cannot believe that an official knight like Garrick is dumb. Garrick takes an attacking pose, ready to teach Damien a lesson. It turns out that Lavender is still conscious, but to avoid getting battered again, he remains lying on the floor as if he is unconscious. Before Garrick and Damien start fighting, Victor urges him to win. Garrick can see that Damien is skilled, but his ego is telling him that he can easily handle him. Garrick sets an attacking range, waiting for Damien to step into it so he can get the maximum damage on him. He swings his sword, but without effort, Damien blocks the attack. Damien grins like a maniac because he is about to fight against a proper official knight. Damien easily pushes Garrick back, shocking him. Even with this, he still believes that it is not more than a fluke. Garrick then unleashes a barrage of swings, believing that Damien will not be able to dodge them. However, Damien dodges everything and finally decides to put some foot in the fight. Damien's eyes turn blue as he dashes toward Garrick at a blinding speed. Garrick fails to track Damien's attack as he gets battered around. Before Garrick knows it, he gets kicked in the head, throwing him into the sand like trash. Damien stares at him with so much rage burning through him, and he lets him know that the kick to the head is for his servant, Victor. Garrick gets back on his feet, and he comes after Damien much deadlier than before. He uses his ultimate technique, the ultimate lion's mighty sword of speed. He thrusts his sword forward, imitating the large paws of a lion. Even with the scary attack coming toward him, Damien is not worried. Damien takes the perfect position and blocks Garrick's attack, shattering his sword in the process. Before he knows it, Damien blitzes past him and cuts off his right arm. Garrick screams in pain as his arm falls off his body. Garrick crashes to the ground, leaving Paul in shock. Victor, on the other hand, makes a fist bump because his master won the battle. Garrick continues screaming about his arm, and before he can do anything, Damien reaches him, pointing his sword at his neck. Garrick immediately starts begging to be spared. He still maintains the fact that he is not fighting the real Damien. Damien just screams at him, telling him that he is Damien. Damien then tells him that he should have begged for his life a little earlier, but it might be too late for that. Damien is pissed that Garrick messed with his family. He not only did this, but also moved his ugly servants up the ranks of the most ugly people in the world. Garrick continues begging, apologizing for what happened. However, Damien lets him know that he is apologizing to the wrong person. Damien calls Victor to come over, and Garrick almost loses his mind when he sees Victor holding a club in his hand. Moments later, Victor has done some wonders for Garrick and his subordinates. Their faces are all swollen up after several rounds of beating from Victor. Victor still wants to hit Garrick, but Damien tells him not to because Garrick might just die from one more hit. Victor suggests that they cut off 1 or 2 more limbs. Damien takes the suggestion, and he is about to swing into action when his father stops him. Garrick uses the opportunity to start begging, telling Paul that he is sorry for everything that happened. Paul screams at Garrick, telling him that a single apology doesn't cut what he has done. Paul mentions that they would have been done for if Damien hadn't been strong. Garrick realizes that things might take a dark turn, and he quickly smashes his head to the ground, begging Paul to have mercy on him. Paul takes a minute to think about it before finally making a gesture to his son to back down. Even without his father stopping him, Damien has no intentions of killing Garrick and his men. He knows that killing Garrick and his men will crash the little relationship that the two houses still have together. Damien would have fought Leon Blooms without hesitation, but he is worried about his family. At the same time, he doesn't want to release Garrick like that because they might end up retaliating. Damien is thinking of what to do when Agnes shows up on the scene. Damien's face lights up when he realizes that Agnes might actually be of use to him again. Damien then explains the whole situation to Agnes. After hearing his worries, Agnes mentions that she might actually be able to help. Agnes comes up with a bright idea. Since House Haxon helped them to successfully take down one of Yulan's executive officers for the first time, she says the church can designate House Haxon as an allied household. Paul is glad to hear this because it might actually help save their family from the crisis. Damien holds Agnes's hand, asking her if she is going to accept the offer, and she says yes. Damien smiles deep down because everything is going the way he wants. Once he secures the deal with the church, he turns to Garrick, asking him if he has heard that the family is now under the church's protection. Damien then tells Garrick to report the new development to House Lion Bloom. Once Damien figures out that he has instilled fear in Garrick, he tells him that he and his subordinates are free to leave. The trio immediately takes the offer and runs off with their tails between their legs. Victor excitedly says the family is free, but Paul is not convinced. He tells Victor that they need to figure out what to do next. Paul then holds a family meeting to discuss their options. Abel asks his father why they need to discuss anything again since they just secured the church's protection. Louise then reveals that they can't expect the church to fully intervene. Abel is shocked and confused when he hears this, and Paul lets Abel know that Louise is actually right. Paul mentions that the church doesn't really get themselves involved with matters that concern noble families. In addition to this, the Leon Bloom family is not only dangerous because of their military strength. Paul mentions that there are several ways for House Leon Bloom to crush them if they want to. Paul then mentions that they have 2 solutions to the problem. It's either they pay off the House Leon Bloom or find a higher-ranking noble house to seek protection under. Paul considers the latter their best shot. Just then, Agnes cuts in, saying there is also another way. She mentions that Damien can become a paladin. Damien is shocked, as he wasn't expecting Agnes to bring up the idea right before his family members. Just like before, Damien doesn't agree to the offer. Paul then writes off the option since Damien is not considering becoming a paladin. Suddenly, Abel stands up from where he is sitting, and he questions his father's judgment as to why he is easily accepting Damien's decision not to become a paladin. Abel says everything will be over if Damien just agrees to become a paladin. Abel tells his father to order Damien to become a paladin because Damien has been a pain in the arse the entire time. Damien is pissed when he hears this, and it is written all over his face. Abel continues by saying the entire thing started because of Damien. Paul can no longer take his son's BS, and he urges him to sit down while he is still asking nicely. Paul's expression and aura scare Abel, forcing him to sit back. Paul says he agrees with Abel that everything started with Damien. However, Paul doesn't blame Damien for what happened. He reminds the family that Erwin was making dishonorable advances toward Louise. Paul says Erwin would not have given up if Damien had not stepped in to challenge him. Paul then mentions that Damien actually protected Louise from Erwin, and this should have been his job as a father. Because of this, Paul gets on his feet and he pats his son on the shoulder, telling him that he did a good job. Damien's face lights up in happiness as his father commends him for repaying House Lion Bloom for their insults. Paul then assures his son that henceforth he will be the one to take care of the issue. Damien wants to make a suggestion, but Paul urges him to give him the chance to act like a father, even if it is just for once. Suddenly, the butler enters the room, telling the family that there is a visitor from House Goldpixie. Paul is surprised since he doesn't remember doing any business with House Goldpixie. This is when the butler reveals that Damien borrowed money using the family's wheat fields as collateral. Apparently, the repayment period has passed, which is why a rep from the family is at the estate to collect what is due. Damien, who is already receiving praises from Paul, immediately gets punched in the face for what he has done. Damien then heads to the waiting room to talk to the debt collector. Damien finds it hard to remember the dude. The dude then introduces himself as Olin, and he is the branch manager of the Dash and Cash Lending Organization, which is a subsidiary of House Goldpixie. This is when Damien remembers that it was Olin who advised him to use his family's land as collateral. Damien was assured that with this, he would get more money. Olin even assured Damien that the collateral is nothing but a formality because there is no way a commoner like him would take land from a noble. Damien finally remembers that it was Olin who talked him into taking the annoying loan. Damien cannot believe how foolish his past self is for handing over the land deed. Damien then asks Olin how much he owes, and he replies that it is 300 gold coins. Damien is shocked to hear this, but Olin shows him the contract to see that he is not lying. Damien cannot believe what he is staring at because he doesn't even know why he borrowed the money in the first place. However, he is worried since his family doesn't have that kind of money to pay at the moment. Damien is already imagining his whole family turning into beggars because of what he did. Olin then mentions that failure to repay the loan that very day will mean that the land Damien used as collateral will become the property of Dash and Cash. Damien tries to protest against this, reminding Olin that he said the collateral was nothing but a formality. Olin admits that he said this, but then he claims that Duke Goldpixie has ordered them to collect on all debts, no matter the status of the debtor. Sweat drips down Damien's face as he realizes that he might have shot himself in the knee. Just then, Olin asks him if he doesn't have the money. With a sad expression, Damien tells Olin that he wasn't able to prepare the payment. The moment Olin hears this, he smiles because he knows what is about to come next. Olin immediately makes himself comfortable on the couch. Olin yawns while stretching and tells Damien that he shouldn't have borrowed the money when he knew that he wouldn't be able to repay it. Olin informs Damien that he has no choice but to collect the money in a way that he chooses. Olin already knew from the start that Damien didn't have what it takes to pay the loan. Olin admits that he loves money, but what he actually enjoys the most is the moment. He likes seeing nobles fall before him and beg for mercy. Olin is already imagining what type of face Damien will be making when he is begging him. Meanwhile, Paul and the rest of the family are anxiously waiting for the result of Damien's meeting with Olin. The ladies urge the men to calm themselves and have a seat while Damien sorts things out. However, the men don't have the strength to sit down because they know their future is at stake. Louise then reminds her father that Damien has never failed them whenever he steps up to handle things for them. Paul agrees with her but says this is for instances that require violence. Paul mentions the fact that combat skills and negotiation skills are very different from each other. Back in the waiting room, Damien is already beating Olin's men up for acting all arrogant in front of him. Olin is taken aback when he sees his men totally trashed on the ground. The last guy leaps toward Damien, trying to cut him, but Damien meets him halfway with an uppercut that takes him out of commission. Damien then mentions that the dude has made the big mistake of drawing his sword against a noble. Damien considers what he is doing to them as nothing but an act of self-defense. Olin shrieks in fear as Damien finishes up with his men and walks toward him. Olin immediately leaves his comfortable position and falls to his knees. Surprisingly, Damien talks to him nicely, telling him that he can't repay the money yet. Olin is shaking, and he tells Damien that it is fine. Damien grabs Olin like a very nice but psychotic person as he proposes to pay the loan another way. With fear creeping through his body, Olin has no choice but to agree to Damien's offer. The following day, Abel reveals how disappointed he is that Damien was actually able to get out of the tight situation with violence yet again. Apparently, Damien is preparing to leave the house. His mother and sister urge him to take care of himself and also to eat properly while he is away. Abel has a proper crash out as he kneels on the ground, holding his head with his hand. Paul cannot believe what he is staring at, and he tells his son to get out of his zone and wish his brother a safe journey. It turns out that Damien proposed a plan to his father that he reluctantly agreed to. Agnes shows her disappointment that she and Damien are already parting ways. Damien lets her know that he appreciates all the help she has rendered so far. Since their investigations are done too, Agnes says they will be leaving the next day. Agnes finds it hard to look Damien in the face as she can't control her blushing. She wishes Damien a blessed journey, and Damien thanks her for the prayers. Agnes tries to use the opportunity to ask Damien to become a paladin, but Damien quickly shuts her down. Once he is done greeting every member of the house, Damien decides that it is time to leave. He walks toward the carriage, and Victor assures him that he has loaded everything into the carriage. The carriage turns out to be Olin's, and it is pretty spacious. Olin tries to be like a good mummy's boy, assuring Damien that he is going to make sure that he has a smooth ride till they get to their destination. Damien is happy to hear this, and he commends Olin for having a good attitude. Damien then suggests that they have lobster for their lunch. The moment they are ready, Damien tells Victor to let the driver know. The carriage starts moving, and it turns out that they are heading to House Goldpixie. Soon afterward, they arrive at the mansion of House Goldpixie. Damien and Victor are both blown away by the aesthetics of the beautiful mansion. Damien is impressed as he considers it a fitting mansion for the supposed richest family in the entire kingdom. Damien turns to Olin, commending him for helping him have a nice time till they reach the estate. Olin bows his head in respect, telling Damien that he has already let the Duke know that he is coming, so all he needs to do is enter. Deep down, Olin is pissed because, throughout the journey, he was working like a dog rather than a servant. Olin wishes Damien a bad fate with the Duke so that he can die. However, when he wants to send Damien off, he tells him that he wishes things to go his way. Damien then tells Victor to wait for him while he sorts his business inside the house. Damien enters the building to meet Adam Goldpixie, the Duke of Apple Kingdom. Adam welcomes Damien in a way that signifies that he already knows him. Adam then asks Damien why he is looking for him. Damien reveals that he borrowed money from his lender business, and it has already reached the due date. Adam smiles when he hears this, and he considers Damien to be their customer. Damien then tells Adam that he actually doesn't have the money, but he would like to repay it another way. Adam is lost when he hears this, as he has no idea how Damien wants to repay the loan without using money. Damien then mentions that he plans to help them defeat the Leon Blooms as a way of repaying his debt. Everyone in the room, including Adam's knights, is shocked to hear this. Adam figures out that Damien must have heard the news. Standing beside Adam is his guard knight, Jael, and he agrees with his master. It turns out that a gold mine was discovered at the borders shared by the Lion Blooms and the Gold Pixies. Since the two families have never been on good terms, they planned a duel involving low-class knights to determine who would gain a monopoly over the gold mine. Because of his past life knowledge, Damien already knows the result of the duel. The Lion Blooms came out victorious, and using the newly found gold, the Leon Blooms expanded their forces. On the other hand, the Gold Pixies lost their influence. Basically, Damien is planning to help them win the duel as a way of repaying his debt. It is going to be a double win for him because he can also use this to keep the Lion Blooms in check. After Adam hears about Damien's proposition, he admits that he is quite ambitious. He then asks Damien if it is true that he defeated the second son of the Lion Blooms and even defeated the Black Snake. With a confident smile on his face, Damien tells Adam that everything he heard is nothing but the truth. Adam admits that the offer is quite tempting because he has been looking for a knight to participate in the duel. Damien assures Adam that he is the perfect candidate to fight Michael, the oldest son of the Leon Blooms. Adam is surprised to hear this as he asks Damien if he is sure that he can defeat Michael because he is considered to be a genius. Damien agrees that Michael is skilled, but he assures Adam that the same can be said for him. One of the knights in the room, Ernst, argues against this, telling his boss that some rumors are bound to be exaggerated. The knight goes further by saying he is sure that Chelsea will bring a suitable candidate for them. Apparently, Chelsea has been away for a month to find the perfect candidate to help them in the duel. Since she has been gone a long time, they believe that she would be on her way already. Since Chelsea has never disappointed, Ernst doesn't think she will this time around. After hearing the opinions of his subordinates, Damien admits that they have all made good remarks. Damien cannot believe that the annoying knights are ruining his plan. Adam then asks Damien what he thinks he should do since his subordinates are advising him not to take him as the candidate. Realizing that Adam is trying to test him, Damien decides that a good example will have to change their minds. Damien then tells Adam that he is making a mistake because having him as the candidate for the duel is the best thing he can do. He assures Adam that no matter who comes back with Chelsea, they will never be as good as him. The knights are pissed about Damien's arrogance, and they ask him why he thinks he is the best when Chelsea has not even arrived with her man. Damien then suggests that he will block Ernst's ultimate attack as proof of what he is saying. Ernst is taken aback when he hears this. Damien reiterates that he will block Ernst's best attack to show that he is worthy of being the candidate. Ernst is pissed when he hears this, and he cannot believe that he is being underestimated by a low-class person like Damien. Ernst then asks Adam for permission to teach Damien a good lesson. Since Adam is also interested in seeing what will happen, he gives his permission. Moments later, Damien and Ernst head to the arena grounds to have their duel. Victor is surprised when he sees this. He believed that Damien had entered to convince the Duke, but somehow it had transformed into a fight again. Damien lets Victor know that he didn't plan it, but it came that way. He urges Victor to stay back so as not to get himself injured. Adam then gives them the go-ahead to begin the duel. Ernst slams his spear to the ground, telling Damien that he will actually forgive him if he can get on his knees to beg. Damien decides to rage bait him further by yawning and asking him to get down to business. Ernst is enraged, and he lets Damien know that he is about to get himself killed. Since Damien asked for his ultimate attack, Ernst unleashes a scary aura from his body, and Damien realizes that he might have rage baited the dude too much. Ernst screams at Damien, telling him that he is going to punch a hole through his face. He dashes toward Damien with a blaring blue aura surrounding him and his spear. Damien is impressed by this, and he tries to parry the spear with his sword, but he places the sword the wrong way, and the impact from the spear shatters his sword, while also inflicting damage on him. Damien is thrown backwards as he screams in pain, while Ernst makes fun of him for being an idiot who fell for his trick. Watching the fight, Victor screams in shock and fear as his master seems to be going down. Before he can reach the ground, Damien pulls himself back up, shocking everyone, including Ernst. He couldn't believe that Damien had what it took to endure his surprise attack. Damien grins, telling Adam that he won the challenge, which means the representative position is now his. Victor rushes over to his master, hugging him and talking about how relieved he is that he is still alive. Adam claps for Damien because he managed to endure Ernst's attack. Adam is impressed that Damien was able to do this since he initially doubted his potential. Adam then announces in front of everyone that he will be picking Damien as his representative. Ernst tries to protest the decision, but Adam stares at him scornfully to warn him. Adam lets him know that it would be good for him to shut his mouth when he is still willing to take his failure as nothing. Ernst cannot believe that Damien wasn't hurt during the attack. Even Damien feels pity for the dude. He knows that he is talented, but he just met the wrong match. The dude is still a middle-class knight, and Ernst is already past that, which is why he is able to easily endure his attack. However, Damien had to put on an act since only low-level knights are allowed to participate in the duel. Damien knows that he would have been done for if he hadn't used mana to block the attack at the right moment. Adam walks up to Damien, saying he must have sustained internal injuries from the fight. Adam is ready to help out, and he uses a magic ring to conjure a subspace. He brings out a small box from there. Inside the small box are pills known as a balance pill. Adam reveals that he paid a huge sum to get the pill from the Alchemy Academy. Damien is excited to see the pill since he knows what it can do. It's a pill that increases his physical abilities, like the potion he took before. Adam says knights usually consume the pill while they are training, but it is also effective for internal injuries. Damien collects the pill and thanks Adam for it. In return, Adam pats him on the shoulder, telling him that he is looking forward to what he can do. The following day, Damien heads to the training room. He is feeling much better thanks to the pill that he took. He is impressed by the training tools available to him in the training room. Just then, a short dude enters the room, asking Damien if he is the Damien everyone is talking about, and he says yes. The shorty then introduces himself, revealing that he is Pabel Bermond. He is a low-class knight, and he is there with his blood brothers. Pabel reveals that he and his blood brother will be participating in the duel too. Damien is shocked to hear this since he is looking at a bunch of incompetent dumbasses. Pabel boasts of this, saying they were not able to watch his match the night before because they were training. He claims that they would have been a better fit to teach Damien a lesson than Ernst. Pabel and his blood brothers are ready to do everything during the duel against the Leon Blooms. They laugh out loud while telling Damien to leave before he interrupts their training session. Damien had wanted to see what type of knights the house had, and this just showed him what to expect. Before Damien leaves, Pabel and his brothers engage in an idiotic duel. Damien watches as they perform very inferior skills, while thinking they are doing something good. The trio boasts about their training, saying they will be ready for the duel, which is slated to be held in a month. They even have a stupid motto, which is one for all. Damien stands, staring at the bunch of idiots who call themselves knights. Victor notices that Damien is acting all strange, and he walks up to him, asking what is wrong with him. Damien basically tells him that they are screwed in the duel. Victor still doesn't understand what Damien means by this. Damien then spells it out, saying he is not confident that he can actually win with the bunch of losers who are supposed to be his teammates. The night before, Adam had asked Damien about his training plans, and he let the Duke know that he would like to train alone. Adam already knew this was going to be his answer, but he never expected him to reject training with Jael. Adam can clearly see that Damien is an interesting dude because of this. Adam then asks Jael what he thinks of Damien. Jael offers his opinion, saying Damien is an exceptional young man. Jael says his idea to use mana at the last second to block Ernst's attack is not something everyone can do. Adam then asks Jael what he thinks about the duel. He wants to know if they have a chance at winning, and Jael offers his honest opinion, saying it is actually difficult to say. Jael is worried because the duel involves 3 participants, and the victory goes to the side that wins the first 2 matches. Jael says it doesn't matter if only Damien performs well, because the others also need to have a good performance. Adam then asks Jael if the other knights are training well in preparation for the duel. Jail reveals that a middle-class knight, Vincenzo, is in charge of the knight's training. With this, Jail believes that they have nothing to worry about. Now that Damien has seen the type of knights he has to work with, he realizes that there is a big problem. Damien doesn't see them as just dumb, but their physical appearances are also trash. Damien is pretty confident that they are going to lose with the type of skill that he has witnessed from the losers. To prevent this, Damien knows that he has no choice but to step in. Damien calls on 3 losers, shocking them. They can't believe that Damien just trash-talked them. Damien puts on sandbags and he tells them that he would like to have a sparring match with them. Pable is impressed that Damien is willing to fight them even though he has seen them display amazing talent. Pable steps forward, saying he will be the first to fight Damien. Damien then says he doesn't want to fight them individually, but all together. Pable cannot believe his ears, but since this is what Damien wants, he decides to give it to him. They drop their swords, and they all charge toward Damien, aiming to punish him for looking down on them. Just as they are about to reach him, Damien swings into action. Momentarily, Pable wakes up to see himself lying on the ground. His supposed blood brothers are still out cold, leaving Pable to wonder what happened. He hears Damien's voice behind him, calling him a pathetic loser. Victor believes that Damien is getting himself in trouble again, but Damien argues, saying he is only teaching them a lesson. Pable sits there, thinking about what happened. The last thing he remembers is him and his friends going after Damien. It finally occurs to him that Damien dodged all of their strikes at the same time before delivering a single strike to each of them to knock them out. Pable finally realizes that they didn't stand a chance as they were all knocked out by Damien. Just as expected, Pable stares at Damien like a monster. When the others finally wake up, they kneel in front of Damien as if he were their master. Damien then asks them who has been training them. Pable reveals that they are receiving training from Sebastian Vincenzo. Damien can't believe that a mid-class knight was the one who gave them such trash training. Damien would have loved to get all of them out of Vincenzo's training, but he is trying to avoid unnecessary conflict. Damien then tells them that whenever they finish training with Vincenzo, they should always come to find him so that they can spar together. Pable is worried about this because if Vincenzo finds out that they are getting beaten up, he would definitely know that something is wrong. Damien then tells them that they have nothing to worry about. He lets them know that no matter how much he beats them, there won't be any scratches on their bodies. This is when it dawns on Pable that they actually just got their asses handed to them, but they are physically fine. Pable doesn't think something like this is actually possible. Damien then tells them that he actually learned a skill that helps him to beat people. Apparently, in his past life, there was a man who roamed the continent transforming criminals. This dude was known as the character corrector. His method was simple, and this was beating criminals for 1 hour straight. If 1 hour wasn't enough to reform them, he would double the duration. According to the stories, the longest time he ever beat someone was over 500 hours. However, he started feeling pity for his victims because they are always bloodied whenever he is done with them. To avoid this, he starts to wonder how he can actually beat someone without endangering their life. Because of this, he trained himself to become a master. He then developed a technique called the traceless strike. This is the same technique that Damien just used on the trio. It is basically a technique that inflicts intense pain without leaving a single visible mark. Damien then asks the trio if they understand just how worthless they are. The trio cannot even argue with him because he seems to be telling the truth. Damien then tells them that there is nothing to worry about since they have a month before the duel. In that time frame, Damien plans to transform them from worthless bugs into useful fighters. Victor holds his head in frustration as he doesn't know what his master is planning this time around. Just when Damien is about to return to training, a butler comes running into the room, telling Damien that the Duke is looking for him. Damien asks him what the problem is, and it seems Chelsea is finally back, and judging from her expression, it seems she is going to be trouble. Apparently, Chelsea is Adam's eldest daughter. Chelsea bows to her father with a proud face, telling him that she has returned. Ernst lets off a brief expression because he is glad that Chelsea has returned to the fold safe and sound. Adam then asks Chelsea if she managed to find a knight who will participate in the duel. Chelsea proudly tells her father she did find a knight. She introduces her father to the knight kneeling behind her. The knight uses the opportunity to stand up, boasting about his name. He is Guillermo Blackwing, who is also known as the Wild Beast. The moment he mentions his name, it catches the attention of everyone in the room. Apparently, Guillermo is a famous mercenary. There are stories that he participated in the Eclairin Kingdom's war. During the war, he basically wiped out all the low-class knights. There are reports that there is no low class that can match up to his strength. Even Adam grins because he has heard about Guillermo. Guillermo is impressed that the Apple Kingdom has heard about him. Chelsea then tells her father that Guillermo has sworn loyalty to her and will be participating in the duel. Chelsea assures her father that Guillermo will be able to defeat Michael. Ernst supports the motion, saying Guillermo is pretty strong enough to take down Michael. They believe that Guillermo is the definition of perfection, while Michael is still working towards it. Adam admits that it is good news, but he lets his daughter know that things have gotten a bit complicated. Chelsea is surprised by this as she doesn't know what her father is talking about. Her father then uses the opportunity to introduce Damien to her and Guillermo. Damien shows up looking like a regular dude with no armor on or scar on his body. Chelsea is shocked to see this because she told her father to wait for her. Adam admits that she said this, but he never agreed that he would actually wait for her. Chelsea then urges her father to change the representative, but Adam says he will have to think about it. Chelsea screams out loudly, saying there is nothing to think about because Damien is a nobody. Chelsea argues that the most obvious choice should be Guillermo. While Chelsea is busy glazing him, Guillermo is smirking at Damien. Adam refuses his daughter's argument, saying Guillermo might be strong, but Damien was able to block Ernst's ultimate attack. Chelsea then berates her father, saying he is only trying too hard not to acknowledge her skills. Chelsea continues speaking in a rude manner until Adam calls her attention to the fact that there are guests in the room. Chelsea smiles, offering her apology, while blaming it on the stress she endured during the journey. With what Damien has seen, he can clearly see that the two have a grudge against one another. Adam then tells Chelsea that he will be discussing the matter with the others before he makes a decision. Adam then tells Chelsea that she is free to leave. Suddenly, Guillermo opens his big mouth to talk. He tells Adam that there is no need to prolong things, because he and Damien can easily settle things since they are both men. Jail cannot believe the audacity of the guy, but they let him finish his statement. Guillermo suggests that the strongest between him and Damien should be the representative. Guillermo stares at Damien, offering that they have a duel so that they can choose a representative for the main event. Chelsea is surprised that Guillermo is speaking even though she has warned him not to speak. However, Adam actually understands where Guillermo is coming from. Adam then turns to Damien, asking him what he thinks about the suggestion. Damien can easily figure out that he is being tested by Adam again. However, Damien is already aware of the fact that he would have to show off his kills to resolve the situation. Damien then mentions that there is no need for them to fight. Since they are aiming to pick the strongest, he proposes a tussle between him and Guillermo. Damien wants them to test out their strength right there in the room. Guillermo laughs out loud, mocking Damien and telling him that he is going to pull off his arm. Damien then returns the favor. With a scary face, he assures Damien that he would only dislocate his shoulder. Without further delay, Guillermo tries to grab Damien's arm, but Damien manages to get the edge. He pulls Guillermo, lifts him up, before smashing him to the ground. Everyone in the room is left picking their jaws from the floor when they see this. Even Chelsea cannot believe what just happened right in front of her. Jail is impressed by what he saw. He realizes that Guillermo was the one who actually tried grabbing Damien first, but Damien used Guillermo's strength against him to throw him to the floor. Jail concludes that Damien is strong and pretty skilled. Guillermo cannot accept his defeat, and he angrily stands up, screaming at Damien for humiliating him. Damien, on the other hand, resorts to his rage-baiting techniques, telling Guillermo that he initially wanted to dislocate his shoulder, but he is stronger than he expected. Guillermo falls for Damien's rage bait, and he angrily pulls out his weapons, ready to attack Damien. Chelsea knows what this means, and she screams at Guillermo to try and call him back to his senses. However, Guillermo is just like a wild beast that has locked onto its target and won't stop at anything until it takes down its target. Before he can do anything rash, Jail's voice and aura echo through the room, telling Guillermo to stop. Jail grabs his sword, scolding Guillermo for unleashing his weapon in the presence of the Duke. Jail's aura overwhelms the room as he asks Guillermo if he is prepared to die. Damien is impressed by the aura emanating from Jail's body, and he realizes that he is a proper high-class knight. Jail lets Guillermo know that he will forgive him just this once to honor Chelsea, but assures him that there won't be a second chance. Once the commotion is settled, Adam claps his hands, saying it has been settled that Damien would be the best to represent them. Just then, Ernst cuts in, arguing that it wasn't a fair fight between Damien and Guillermo. Ernst claims that Guillermo is still suffering from exhaustion from the journey and has not been given time to recover. Damien cannot believe that Ernst is trying to ruin his plans yet again. Ernst continues by saying that Guillermo is a knight who uses weapons, which means they can't confirm his abilities in a fistfight. Chelsea quickly supports the motion, telling her father that they need to fairly compare their abilities with a proper duel. Adam then tells his daughter to stop forcing things. Before the two know it, they are already screaming at each other. Adam tells Chelsea to stop bragging about her incompetence. Chelsea calms down after hearing this, and the entire situation in the room becomes awkward. Surprisingly, Damien raises his hand to make a suggestion. He asks Adam if he is free to accept Chelsea's request. Just as expected, Adam says yes. After the meeting, Victor berates Damien for risking everything by accepting the duel. He tells Damien that he has nothing to lose, whether he accepts the deal or not. Damien then tells Victor that he has a reason for accepting the duel. He urges him to stop nagging, but Victor believes that Damien is just a troublemaker. Damien and Victor then head to the blacksmith shop that the Duke referred them to. Because Damien accepted the match against Guillermo, Adam referred him to the blacksmith, since his sword broke during his fight against Ernst. Even though Damien can easily beat Guillermo with a trash sword, he doesn't want to reject an opportunity to take the Duke's kindness. Upon entering the shop, they tell the attendant that they are from the Duke. The shop attendant reveals that he has been informed of their coming. He leads them to where the weapons are kept, and Victor is blown away by the amazing weapons in the room. Damien notices just how excited Victor is, and he asks him if he would like one of the weapons. Victor is surprised to hear this, and he asks Damien if he can take something expensive, and Damien says yes. Damien has no reason to hold back since Adam is the one covering the bills. Just then, Damien spots a sword that has 2 blades attached to the hilt. The attendant realizes that Damien is interested in the sword, and he reveals that it was a sword that was ordered by a knight who was once employed at the duchy. However, he had to leave in a rush for an emergency before the sword was completed. Apparently, the owner has not been able to hold the sword. Damien then asks the blacksmith if the knight gave him a unified ringing steel to make the sword, and he says yes. However, the blacksmith is surprised as to how Damien knows this. Damien notices that the sword is similar to the favorite weapon of a master named Sword Musician, whom he knew in his past life. Without thinking twice, Damien tells the attendant that he will be taking the sword. The dude is surprised that Damien is taking the sword even though he knows what kind of metal unified ringing steel is. Damien assures the attendant that he knows exactly what the metal is. Ordinary rare metals increase mana, but unified ringing steel possesses a unique temperament that pushes mana out and causes waves. Damien then asks the attendant if the sword has a name. The dude thinks about it for a second, before remembering that the owner named it the 1,000-Mile Sword. Damien wastes no time pushing the sword into his scabbard. They are prepared to leave when a maid enters the room. The maid acts all modest before introducing herself as Rebecca. She reveals that she works for Chelsea, and Chelsea has requested to meet Damien. Damien replies that he has nothing to say to Chelsea, but Rebecca tries to convince him that he might be wrong. She tells Damien that Chelsea has more than he actually thinks. Damien is not entirely convinced, but he decides to check out whatever it is that Rebecca is saying. He then tells Rebecca to lead the way. Rebecca then leads them to a restaurant that Chelsea operates. Rebecca claims that the restaurant only accepts reservations and is meant strictly for nobles. Rebecca mentions that the entire restaurant is empty because of him. They soon arrive at the room where Chelsea is waiting. Rebecca stops at the door, telling Damien to enter the room. Damien opens the door, wondering what Chelsea is planning to offer him. Just as he steps into the room, Damien gets hit with a sweet and catchy fragrance. Chelsea is at the table, serving wine while telling Damien to join her at the table. She looks absolutely menacing while staring Damien in the face. Damien takes his seat and asks Chelsea why she has called him. Chelsea teases Damien, telling him that he is quick to anger. She wants them to wait until the food arrives before they talk, but Damien refuses, suggesting that she get straight to the point. Chelsea realizes that she can't play Damien, and she tells him that she has just one condition, and this is for him to step down as the representative of the house. Damien looks at her scornfully, saying she is talking like someone who doesn't trust Guillermo. Chelsea argues this, saying Guillermo will cut him up if he picks up his weapon. She claims that she is trying to preserve his strength in preparation for the main event. She says it would be catastrophic if Guillermo got injured in the battle. Damien sees some sense in what she is saying, but he wants to know why he should step down. He wants to know what is in it for him if he steps down. Chelsea tells Damien that she is going to make sure that all of his dreams come true if he steps down. Damien is surprised as he asks Chelsea if she knows what he desires. Chelsea then categorizes Damien as the usual noble-type person who wants fame, money, and other things related to that. Damien sees the Duke as the best person to give him those things that she just mentioned. Chelsea agrees that the Duke is currently in power, but he should think about the future. She believes that Damien should be looking into the future because she will end up being the Duke sooner or later. After saying all of these, Chelsea stares straight into Damien's eyes, telling him to go to Adam to tell him that he will be stepping down. Chelsea is confident that everything is going according to her plan, thanks to the strange scent and aura that enveloped the whole room. To her greatest surprise, Damien simply replies that he is not interested. This shocks her, and she accidentally coughs it out that it is not supposed to go like that. Damien knows that Chelsea is taken aback that he is not affected by the charm fragrance that she was relying on. Charm fragrance is basically a type of dark magic that creates false affection to manipulate people. Damien already sensed the magic the moment he entered the room, and this is all thanks to his knowledge from his past life. Basically, with the type of charm concentration in the room, a regular person would have turned into her slave in a short time. However, he is the MC, and he has the authority of greed, which helped him absorb the charm completely. Damien then stands up from his chair, asking Chelsea what she means by it's not supposed to go that way. Chelsea is stunned by the ambush, but quickly changes the trajectory, asking Damien why he is rejecting her even though she promised him everything. Damien then stands up to leave, telling Chelsea that he doesn't need her help because what he wants is not something that she can actually give him. Chelsea then screams at Damien, asking him what it is that he wants so badly. Damien simply replies with a very serious tone that all he wants is his family's happiness. Chelsea is shocked to hear this, and after saying this, Damien continues walking toward the door. He also tells Chelsea to inform Guillermo to prepare for the match between them. Chelsea is not ready to accept defeat, and she proceeds to use something really stupid against Damien. She threatens Damien, telling him to step down or else she will hurt his family. She has not finished saying this when Damien rushes over to her and pushes her to the table. He holds her tightly by the neck, shocking Chelsea. Her guards soon rush into the room, but Damien lets Chelsea go so he can slightly cut their necks. In under a second, the guards are already holding their necks in pain. Damien then tells them to apply a potion because he intentionally made the cut shallow. Damien then tells Chelsea that he is tempted to slit her throat, but he is going to control himself not to. He considers killing her mercy, but he urges her to look forward to what he has in store for her. He says this with a very scary face, leaving Chelsea totally stunned. Momentarily, Rebecca runs into the room, asking Chelsea if she is fine. Chelsea is boiling with anger because of Damien, and she threatens to annihilate Damien no matter what it takes. She then screams at the top of her voice, calling someone named Mustang Fury. Mustang Fury shows up in the room, and he turns out to be a fat, ugly mage. Chelsea asks him why the charm fragrance didn't work on Damien. Mustang Fury replies that he also has no idea why it didn't work. However, he knows that there are rare cases of people who are immune to dark magic. Mustang Fury believes that Damien might be one of these people. Chelsea is pissed, and she hits Mustang Fury with an item. Chelsea then asks for Guillermo, and Mustang Fury lets her know that Guillermo is at the tavern. Guillermo claims that he needed to blow off steam after what happened. Chelsea cannot believe that Guillermo has a match the next day, and he is out drinking. Chelsea then asks Mustang Fury if he thinks Guillermo is up to the task of beating Damien. Mustang Fury assures Chelsea that Guillermo is a masterpiece designed by Yulan themselves. Mustang Fury claims that he has never seen a knight with greater dark magic affinity than Guillermo. He then urges Chelsea to stay calm because Yulan has already promised to make her the Duke. With a scary face, Chelsea lets Mustang Fury know that it would be better for him to keep his word because she will definitely kill him if he fails. Unknown to them, Damien is at the top of the window, and he has heard everything about their involvement with Yulan. After this, Damien heads to the training room. He sits in a cross-legged position to meditate, while Victor is busy snoring. Damien doesn't believe that he would run into Yulan again so soon. He already has his suspicions that Chelsea was involved with the dark mages. This tells him that the energy he felt when Guillermo was standing in front of him is dark magic. Damien starts tapping his new sword, creating sound waves from it. Instead of going to the Duke to explain the situation to him, Damien thinks of showing it to him directly. The following morning, Guillermo arrives at the arena, totally confident that he has the win in the bag. Pabel and his brothers are there to watch the fight. They ask Pabel who he thinks will win the fight. Pabel says, considering their reputation, he thinks Guillermo will win. When he says this, his brothers immediately start to rejoice because they will finally be free of Damien, because he has really done a lot for them in just 2 days. Damien has been beating them up, and they even conclude that he is having fun with it at this point. Pabel lets his brothers know that he would be happy if Damien also loses, but he doesn't think there is any reality where he loses to Guillermo. Damien steps into the arena, looking casual as usual. Guillermo tries to act tough, telling Damien that he is impressed that he didn't run away. Damien taunts him, telling him that he is blabbing nonsense. Adam finally arrives on stage and he reminds them that whoever wins will be given the position to represent the family in the duel against the Gold Pixies. Adam hopes that everyone will accept whatever the outcome is, and by this, he is indirectly speaking to Chelsea. Deep down, Chelsea is confident that Guillermo will win the battle. Adam raises his handkerchief and he starts the duel. Guillermo whips out his 2 axes. He starts spinning them aggressively, telling Damien that he has made a huge mistake in accepting the duel. He is prepared to show Damien why he is called the Wild Beast. He rushes toward Damien, but before he reaches Damien, Damien taps his sword just as he has practiced. With this, he creates a sound wave that hits Guillermo. The effect of the wave sends him flying backwards. Guillermo angrily asks Damien what he just did to him. The same way Guillermo is shocked is the same way everyone else watching can't comprehend the unusual technique that Damien is using. Guillermo is pissed, and he claims that Damien is using a weird sorcery technique. He rushes toward Damien again, but Damien doesn't move from where he is. He just continues tapping his sword to create the sound waves one after the other. This continues hitting Guillermo in his insides. Before he knows it, he is already panting from the excessive breakdown of waves splitting his insides. The waves soon reach his brain, causing him to start vomiting black substance. Guillermo still has enough strength in him to call Damien the B word. Damien then decides to finish everything at once. He unleashes a huge wave and hits Guillermo with it. This finally breaks through his armor and shatters whatever dark attribute that has been infused into him. This leaves everybody shocked. And right in their presence, Guillermo starts to vomit a large quantity of dark substance from his body. Adam is left confused as he asks Jael why Guillermo is acting all weird. It starts to dawn on Adam and Jael that it might be what they are actually thinking. At the same time, Chelsea realizes that she is screwed. Guillermo cannot control himself as he spills every dark substance stored in his body. He loses body fat while vomiting everything inside him. Damien walks up to him saying Guillermo's true nature has finally been exposed. Guillermo crashes to the ground, looking totally drained of life, and Damien calls him a fake knight. Adam is confused when he hears Damien call Guillermo a fake knight. Damien then proceeds to tell the Duke that Guillermo is a fake knight because he was enhancing his physical abilities with dark magic. Everyone present at the arena is taken aback when Damien makes mention of dark magic. One of the butlers knows that they are done for if the church finds out that they are involved with dark magic. Adam then asks Damien if he already knew about Guillermo's true identity before the match, and he says yes. Damien apologizes for not telling him beforehand. However, he lets the Duke know that he didn't want to tell him because he wanted to figure out who the real culprit was. The Duke is shocked to hear this, and he becomes even more curious about the whole thing. Damien lets Adam know that dark mages have infiltrated the Duke's house. He then drops the bombshell, saying the person working with them is Chelsea. Chelsea freezes up when she hears her name coming from Damien's mouth. Chelsea tries to defend herself, telling her father that she has no idea what Damien is saying. Adam holds his head in his palm, looking all disgusted. He has always suspected this, but didn't want to believe it. Adam is pissed that Chelsea brought the dark mages into his house. Enraged, Adam tells the soldiers to arrest Chelsea and all of her accomplices. He orders that they be locked in the prison until they figure out who they really are. Chelsea still tries to argue her case, telling her father that she has been framed. Two of the soldiers grab Guillermo in his weak state and disgustingly drag him off the arena. Two soldiers approach Chelsea, and she realizes that everything will be exposed if she is captured. Chelsea then screams at her accomplices among the knights, telling them to protect her. They all rush at the soldiers to take them down and try to get Chelsea out of there. Adam realizes that things are already getting out of hand, and he tells Jael to apprehend his daughter. Jael acknowledges the order and swings into action. Jael steps onto the arena and urges the knights protecting Chelsea to step aside. Jael's aura overwhelms the entire arena as his eyes glow. The knights realize that they lack the capability to actually deal with Jael. Even though they know that they are not capable, they still scream at Chelsea, telling her to run away while they hold Jael off. Jael finally unleashes his sword, letting the knights know that they have taken the very wrong turn. Jael swings his sword, and just the aura from it cuts through the knights, leaving destructive damage in its wake. Chelsea barely manages to survive the swing, but the knights protecting her have been sliced in half by Jael. At this point, Chelsea screams out in horror as she sees the scary image of Jael walking toward her as she sits in a pool of blood. Chelsea starts crying, telling Jael to stay away from her. Chelsea then turns to Ernst, begging him to save her. Ernst then makes the tough decision of jumping between Jael and Chelsea. Damien sees this and realizes that Ernst is basically asking for death at this point. Before Jael does anything, he acknowledges every good thing that Ernst has done for the growth of the house. He adds that Adam considers Ernst a valuable person, but Jael lets him know that if he insists on protecting Chelsea, he will have no choice but to execute him. Jael's aura swirls like a scary wave while telling Ernst what will come of him if he doesn't back down. Ernst finally comes to his senses, and he realizes that he is asking for death. He drops his weapon and falls to his knees, giving the soldiers the opportunity to grab Chelsea. Chelsea still tries to convince her father that she is innocent, but Adam tells her to shut her mouth while calling her a worthless piece of trash. Adam lets her know that her actions might come back to bite the family. Adam is pissed that Chelsea has managed to drag the entire household into the mud. Adam stares at Chelsea in a very disgusting way while letting her know that the greatest mistake he made was making Chelsea a part of his life. Tears run down Chelsea's face when she hears this, and she starts screaming at her father that she has nothing to do with everything that is happening. Adam then tells the guards that he is done hearing her annoying voice. He orders the guards to silence her and remove her from his sight. The guards do as told, and they cover Chelsea's mouth before she is dragged away from the scene. Damien can only smile as he has finally taken out one more enemy from the board. A few days after the match, the soldiers are working on the captured knights by inflicting pain on them so that they can confess everything that they know. One of the knights reveals that he fell for Chelsea's suggestion after smelling a strange scent. Jael finally realizes that Chelsea has been expanding her influence in the Duke's household with the help of the dark mages. Jael is utterly disappointed, and he wonders why Chelsea will do such a thing. Chelsea is also in her cell, and she has been tortured too. Chelsea blames her father for everything that happened. All she wanted while growing up was to be acknowledged by her father. However, no matter what she does, Adam doesn't seem to be satisfied. Even when she brought him flowers, he threw them away while staring at her like a piece of trash. Chelsea never understood why her father looked at her with such cold eyes. While crying in her cell, a servant brings food for her. Chelsea doesn't hesitate before taking the food. She starts eating to fuel her determination since she is not ready to die like trash. She is ready to do everything within her power to survive. While she is busy eating, the servant is staring at her with a scary expression. On the other hand, Damien learns from Victor that Adam is looking for him. Damien then heads to Adam's chambers. Adam pours them a cup of wine to drink. After having a taste, Damien admits that the drink is good. Adam laughs, and he is impressed that Damien was able to notice. He tells Damien that the wine is not expensive, but it is his favorite wine. Adam gulps down the drink while Damien stares at him. Adam then brings out a plate of cheese that he claims is from the Blanco region. Adam assures Damien that the cheese goes very well with the wine. Damien thanks Adam as he tears into the cheese. Adam then reveals that he finally accepted help from the church concerning Chelsea's case. Damien is surprised to hear this since he was expecting Adam to investigate the whole thing by himself. Adam says this was his plan, but in the end, all of the dark mages escaped their grasp. Damien is shocked to hear this, and Adam mentions that all of Chelsea's close associates were captured except the dark mages. Adam is telling Damien so he will know the current status of things since he helped with the entire case. Damien is disappointed that not a single mage was captured, and he starts wishing he had gotten involved in the whole thing. Adam then reveals that he is no longer involved with tracking down the dark mages, as he has left the responsibility to the church. Damien then asks Adam if Chelsea said anything about the identity of the dark mages, and Adam says she refused to say anything. Adam mentions that Chelsea's lips remain tight even though they have tortured her over and over again. Adam admits that she is a tough girl. Adam then confesses that Chelsea was never the way she is. Adam then narrates the story about Chelsea's background. Apparently, her mother was a commoner. Adam was out hunting when he was still very young, and this is when he met her. Something happened between them, and in no time, she became pregnant. Adam couldn't believe that a one-time thing with her would make her get pregnant for him. After this, Adam doesn't want to accept the fact that a commoner has his blood running through them. This was why he chased Chelsea and her mother away when they came to him. Later on, Adam got curious about Chelsea and he made inquiries. This was when he learned that Chelsea's mother had already died of the plague, but Chelsea survived. Adam then brought Chelsea into the household. After narrating the story to Damien, Adam wonders why he even brought Chelsea into his household in the first place. Damien then subtly tells Adam that he might have done it because Chelsea was family to him. The mention of family strikes something in Adam, and he starts wondering if Chelsea really wanted to become a member of the family. It then dawns on Adam that Chelsea doing everything that she has done is a way for him to acknowledge her. Adam is disappointed because Chelsea could have just lived a normal, noble woman's life. Adam realizes that he is saying too much and figures out that it is the effect of the wine. Adam apologizes for dumping his life story on Damien. Just then, a butler runs into the room, telling Adam that something bad has happened. Adam hears this and fears the worst. It turns out that the guards arrived in Chelsea's cell to find her swinging from the ceiling. 4 days after Chelsea's death, everything pointed to the fact that she sent herself to the afterlife. Since she is dead, the investigations into her accomplices also came to an end. As punishment for dragging her family through mud, her grave was made plain. Damien knows that the crisis that struck the Gold Pixie Duchy seems to have ended at the present moment, but he is confident that it is not the end. Damien is confident that Yulan will not give up. Damien is lost in his thoughts until his annoying servant calls him back to reality. Apparently, Victor was complaining about how Damien arranges his dirty laundry without considering who is washing them. Later on, Ernst is seen drinking himself to a stupor in the middle of the street. He is mourning Chelsea's death by drowning himself in alcohol. He soon crashes to the ground while thinking about Chelsea. Apparently, he has been Chelsea's personal guard since she was little. They have always spent time together. He listened to all of her stories about how she wants to win her father's trust by giving him flowers. She plucked flowers from the field where her parents met, aiming to make her father happy with them. But this was the flower that her father threw away like trash. Ernst is heartbroken that he couldn't protect her beloved Chelsea. To punish himself, he starts hitting himself, regretting why he didn't die alongside Chelsea. Ernst is in the middle of his depressing moment when Rebecca shows up. She approaches Ernst, looking all bright, but the moment Ernst spots her, he attacks her. He grabs her by the neck, asking her why she is so brave to show herself. Ernst blames Rebecca for what happened to Chelsea. Rebecca is choking while trying to calm Ernst down. Ernst is not ready to hear what she has to say as he prepares to snap Rebecca's neck. He finally calms down when Rebecca reveals that she is trying to get revenge for her late mistress. She tells Ernst that the house claimed that Chelsea sent herself to the afterlife, but this is not true. Rebecca says Chelsea died because she was not able to withstand the torture inflicted on her. Ernst is enraged when he hears this, and he asks Rebecca if he has any proof to support her claim. Rebecca reminds Ernst that Chelsea is not the kind of person to terminate herself. In addition to this, she claims that she heard from those who recovered Chelsea's body that there were torture marks all over her body. These are wounds that are so severe that no normal person would have endured them. Rebecca claims that the wounds are deep enough to cause death. Rebecca then finishes her argument by saying the duchy terminated Chelsea and covered it up by saying it was a self-termination. After hearing this, it dawns on Ernst that the Duke is actually capable of doing such. Rebecca then continues by saying she actually approached Chelsea because she had an ulterior motive, but she was treated like a human by Chelsea. Because of what she feels for Chelsea, Rebecca tells Ernst that she can't look over what happened to Chelsea. Rebecca reveals her determination to get revenge for her beloved master. Rebecca tells Ernst that if she is going to do this, she is going to need his help. While saying this, she holds Ernst's hand while releasing the charm fragrance. Since Ernst is in his weak state, the charm easily captures him. Since he is already under the influence, Ernst then asks Rebecca what she wants him to do. After she is done giving him instructions, Ernst walks away. Mustang Fury appears on the scene, commending Rebecca for a job well done. Mustang was initially worried that the spell might not work on Ernst since he is a middle-class knight. Rebecca grins like a maniac while revealing that no matter how strong someone is, they always have a weakness in their heart. If that weakness grows, it is much easier to get the said person under the influence. Rebecca knows that for Ernst, his weakness is Chelsea. She merely exploited this weakness. Rebecca laughs, saying Ernst is so dumb not to have figured out Chelsea's real killer. Rebecca knows that Ernst will basically lose his mind the moment he finds out who is behind Chelsea's mysterious death. Rebecca then asks Mustang if they have to go after Damien. Mustang replies that they can't just sit around while Damien runs wild. They also learned from their spy that it was Damien who killed Agito. In addition to this, Damien has interfered with the plan entrusted to them by their big boss. Just by doing this, Mustang lets Rebecca know that Damien is worthy of death. Mustang believes that Damien doesn't know who they are yet. Mustang concludes that they have the element of surprise since the duchy thinks they have run away. Mustang's prime aim is to make sure that they use their golden chance to kill Damien. In the training hall, Damien is meditating when some figures appear behind him to ambush him. 3 wooden swords come at him at the same time, but he easily parries all before dealing severe punishment to the 3. It turns out that these 3 dudes are Pabel and his blood brothers. Damien is disappointed at the trio because even though he gave them the chance to ambush him, they still could not land a hit on him. The trio falls to their knees, apologizing for being a total waste of semen. Pabel concludes that they are dead because they failed the mission. Surprisingly, Damien tells them that training is over. This shocks the trio, who are forced to ask again. Damien then subtly demands to know if they are still interested in training more, but the trio quickly says no. Pabel wonders why Damien is not beating the crap out of them like he usually does. Damien lets them know that he is dismissing them so that they can rest. Since the match against the Leon Blooms is in 2 days, Damien believes that it is appropriate for them to rest. He then tells them to think carefully about everything that he has taught them. The trio is genuinely confused about this, since they can't recall learning anything other than getting battered every day. Damien is disappointed that none of them actually understood what he was doing for the past couple of weeks. Apparently, the reason he has been sparring with them is not something as simple as physical training. Damien has something else in store for them the entire time, but he is disappointed that not even one of them was able to grasp the idea. Just then, he notices that Pabel is silent and thinking hard about something. Damien smiles because Pabel seems to have gotten the hang of what he was teaching them. Damien takes off the sandbags on his body while looking forward to the duel. Soon afterward, Adam and his men arrive at the leafy plains where the duel is to take place. They can see House Leon Bloom in front, and Adam asks Damien how the house appears to him. Damien takes a closer look and reveals that they appear to be a very high-level army. Damien says their individual skills appear to be quite at the top, too. Adam laughs after hearing Damien's take, and he reveals that Leon Bloom takes pride in training his soldiers well. Just then, a messenger from the opposing side comes over to deliver a message. Apparently, Leon Bloom wants the representatives to meet before the duel begins. Adam then agrees to the suggestion since there is no reason not to. At Leon Bloom's camp, Holland walks into his son's tent to find him still sleeping. He kicks Michael on the bed, telling him that they need to meet Adam's men and he is busy sleeping. Michael rolls on the bed while telling his father that he is being too loud. Holland reminds Michael how important the duel against the duchy is. Michael returns to the bed, telling his father that he is not interested. When Holland realizes that he can't get Michael to stand up, he starts talking about facing Damien himself. This immediately catches Michael's attention, and he asks to confirm if Damien is in the Duke's group. Holland mentions that Damien was the one who was selected by the Duke to represent them. The moment Michael hears this, he goes into overdrive mode, and he finally shows interest in the battle. Not long after this, the 2 camps meet. Adam berates Holland for coming late to the meeting when he was the one who basically asked for it. Holland teases Adam, asking him if he is angry about something so minor. The two laugh at each other, but the tension between them is glaring. Jael then calls them back to the real reason why they are there by clearing his throat. Holland then greets Jael, since it's been a long time since they saw each other. Holland then urges Jael to join his household because the Duchy's house must be boring him to death. Jael simply lets Holland know that he has no desire to join his household because he has pledged his allegiance to the Duke. Holland uses the opportunity to take a dig at Adam. Just then, Holland spots Damien behind Adam. A wave of rage takes over Holland because he would have personally preferred to beat Damien up himself for what he did to his knights and son. Damien can sense Holland's intentions, but he just stands there, smiling at him like he doesn't care. Just then, Holland feels something strange in him, and he realizes that this is because of Damien. He can't believe that a high-class knight like him is feeling tense in front of Damien, a low-class knight. Holland then wonders if he is getting the chills because of Damien's hidden potential, but he admits one truth, and that is the fact that Damien might actually be at the same level as his son, Michael. Suddenly, Michael gets triggered by Damien's presence, and he angrily reaches for his sword without even thinking twice. He takes a pose and aims directly for Damien, while Damien remains unfazed. Thankfully, Holland is able to caution his son, telling him to drop his weapon. Michael finally returns to his senses, leaving him stunned because he didn't even realize that he had pulled his weapon. Jael berates Michael for pulling his weapon in front of the Duke. Adam reminds Michael and his father that it is a grave sin for someone to pull a weapon against a noble. Holland tries to justify the situation, saying his son drew his sword because of his desire to win. However, Adam lets him know that he is not ready to overlook it. He asks Holland how he plans to pay for his son's mistake. Holland realizes that everything has become complicated, all thanks to Michael reacting without even realizing it. Holland understands that Michael must have seen Damien as a wild beast that needs to be taken down. Adam decides to ride on the opportunity very well. He tells Holland that he would have suggested they cancel the duel, but he would not. Holland already knows that Adam is not the type to let things go without gaining something from it. Just as he expected, Adam tells Holland that he would like to add a few more terms to the duel. After hearing the terms presented by Adam, Holland groans but has no choice but to accept the terms. With this, Holland and Michael start going back to their camp. Damien is impressed with what Adam just did because he used the situation to get more things on his side. Adam then stares at Damien, saying it is quite strange for Michael to have drawn his sword at Damien. Damien plays dumb, telling Adam that he has no idea why Michael behaved the way he did. Damien is surprised and impressed at the same time that Michael has awakened his sixth sense at such a young age. Damien is already looking forward to the duel as he considers it to be one that holds promises. On the other hand, Holland asked his son why he drew his sword. He mentions that he could have put their family in danger. Michael then asks his father if he saw Damien's reaction. Apparently, Damien knew he was going to draw his sword, but he just stood there, smiling like he didn't care. Michael is excited because he has never met an opponent like Damien before. Michael's face lights up in joy as he says Damien might be the opponent that will finally give him what he wants. Holland finally realizes that Michael has been so bored with fighting weak boys, which is why he is so hyped at the opportunity of fighting Damien. Michael then asks his father if there is anything they can do because he had to accept some terms that are not great because of what he did. Holland is not worried about this as he tells his son not to worry himself because their victory is certain. Soon afterward, they prepare to begin the first match. The referee tells the duel representative from both sides to step forward. Since it is the first match and it is important to gain momentum for the team, Adam asks Damien who they should send out first. Damien is about to make his recommendation when Sebastian Vincenzo shows up on the scene. Vincenzo reminds everyone that he is the person in charge of training the knights. Since this is his role, he thinks he should be capable of recommending someone far more suitable than Damien could. Damien is surprised because this is the first time he will be seeing the so-called Vincenzo. He realizes that Vincenzo is such a loser since he is the one training Pabel and his trash brothers. Damien figures out that Vincenzo is worried that he might steal the spotlight from him. Damien decides to step back and allow the dude to have his moment. Damien then tells Adam to allow Vincenzo to recommend the first knight. Adam then tells Vincenzo to recommend a knight of his choice. Surprisingly, Sebastian Vincenzo nominates his son, Fabian Vincenzo, as the first duel knight. Sebastian is confident that his son will win the first match and gain Adam's favor. Adam is impressed that Vincenzo nominated his own son, whom he has heard great things about. Adam genuinely hopes that the kid wins. Lion Bloom then presents their own representative, a chubby, ugly dude called Ronald. As the duel begins, Fabian excitedly announces his name and demands Ronald's name and house. Ronald replies that he is Ronald and he has no family or house. The moment Fabian hears this, he realizes that he is about to fight a commoner. His blood starts boiling as he prepares to teach Ronald a huge lesson. Ronald doesn't seem to care so much, as he tells Fabian that he is like the rest of the nobles, who like running their mouths. This is enough to get Fabian to attack, and he charges at Ronald with a blue aura swirling around him. Fabian tries to cut Ronald down, but he easily dodges the strike. Since he had lost balance while trying to take Ronald down, it gave Ronald the chance to easily launch a counterattack. Ronald continues teasing Fabian with no stress while calling him a pathetic loser. Fabian lets his emotions run wild, and he tries catching Ronald again, but this time Ronald catches him off guard and cuts off his hand. Fabian's face lights up in shock as his arm flies off right in front of him. Even Adam is stunned as he sees his knight's arm fall off. Vincenzo holds his head in pain, realizing what he just put his son into. Ronald mocks Fabian, telling him not to act all mighty and big in his presence. He then uses the famous word, telling Fabian that he is fired. Fabian rolls on the floor in pain while Holland smiles, as this is the beginning of his victory. Fabian is stretchered off the battle stage while he cries for help. Damien already expected that Fabian was weak, but he never thought it was up to that extent. Adam is frustrated when he sees this since he wasn't expecting the Lamb Blooms to be cutting off people's arms when the deal was just to win matches. Adam then calls Damien, asking him what they need to do. Since they have lost the first match, Adam suggests that it would be nice for Damien to join the fight, but Damien points out that it is not the right time yet. He mentions that if he steps out for the second match, and Michael ends up coming out for the third, that means they are going to lose either way. Damien then assures Adam that he has someone to recommend for the second match. Adam is surprised to hear this, and he asks Damien who it is. Just as expected, it turns out to be Pavel. Pavel almost loses his mind when Damien picks him as the second representative. Damien then tells him to remember the training he received while he was getting trashed by him. Pavel is still worried, but Damien assures him that he is going to win. His blood brothers also cheer him on, telling him how much they believe in him. Adam is skeptical about Damien's suggestion since Pavel has never been one to stand out, but Damien assures the Duke that Pavel will definitely win. He says he has given Pavel special training just for the duel. Before Pavel steps onto the stage, he almost breaks down from fever while his friends attend to him. He finally gets into the arena, and he finds himself facing off against a scary knight, Huey Selesion. Just by staring at Huey, Pavel can easily sense that he is far stronger than him. The guy is so strong and confident that he thought he would be facing off against Damien. Since Damien is not his opponent, he decides to finish the duel pretty quickly. He aims his weapon at Pavel and dashes toward him. Pavel is still caught up in his scaredy-cat zone when Huey's attack catches up to him. Just as the sword is about to touch him, Pavel finds himself instinctively blocking the attack. Pavel falls to the ground, but Huey is surprised that Pavel was actually able to block his attack. He admits that Pavel is better than he initially thought. Even Pavel is stunned that he was able to parry the attack, and he assumes that it is nothing but beginner's luck. Huey comes after him again, but Pavel is able to dodge the hit as he jumps backward. Pavel quickly pays attention to the resulting dust, and he is able to block a surprise attack from Huey. At this point, Huey starts to realize that something seems terribly off because Pavel was not supposed to be able to block his surprised attack. Before Pavel knows it, he is already standing his ground against Huey. Pavel doesn't believe that he is actually staying much better in the fight than he anticipated. He finally realizes why Damien was so confident that he was going to win the fight. Damien smiles while standing behind because it seems Pavel has finally figured out what is going on. Apparently, the swordsmanship that Damien was using to beat Pavel and his team is the signature style of House Lionbloom, the great lion sword art. After Pavel has been beaten countless times by the same style, his body has learned to instinctively block or dodge the attack. Damien is confident that Pavel is already used to the style that he might even be able to block it with his eyes closed. Pavel figures out that Huey is using the same swordsmanship that Damien used on him, but it appears that his own is slower, pointing out that Damien is on an entirely different level. Pavel finally gets to appreciate what Damien has been doing for him. Pavel lets go of his fear and starts reacting to Huey's attack much better. Pavel pushes himself a step further, and he breaks through Huey's defense to reach him. Pavel has the chance to push his sword into Huey's neck, but he only cuts a side of his face. Everyone is shocked by the impossible feat that they just witnessed. Huey falls on his butt, and Pavel holds a sword to his neck, and the referee declares him the winner. Pavel's friends roar in excitement as Pavel claims victory for House Gold Pixie. Even Michael is surprised that Huey is stronger, but for some reason, he still lost. For the last and final battle, Michael steps onto the stage, and this leaves the Duke worried since he knows what Michael is capable of. Damien and Michael walk to the front, and Damien mentions that he is excited to be going up against Michael. Michael also smiles, saying he has been waiting for someone like Damien. Michael considers Damien an equal who can easily give him the fight that he needs. Damien scoffs when he hears Michael regard him as his equal. Michael pulls his sword, urging Damien not to disappoint him in the duel. A few minutes before Michael stepped forward to fight Damien, Huey was asking for death from Holland for disgracing the family. However, Holland tells him to get back on his feet because it was not his fault that he lost. Holland could clearly see that Huey was stronger, but things didn't go his way. Nonetheless, Holland is not worried because victory is certain as long as Michael does his best. Holland tells Huey that he is free to leave, although Holland feels something is wrong. He knows Huey is far stronger than Pable, but Pable somehow anticipated all of his attacks. Holland knows that the Great Lion sword art is only passed down in their house, and there is no way it could have leaked to the outside world. While thinking about the possibilities, Michael excitedly tells his father that he is eager to fight Damien. Michael tells his father that he has finally found someone like him, and his father assures him that he is going to win. When Michael was a kid, he had always loved swordsmanship from the first day that he was introduced to it by his father. Because of this, Michael was filled with expectations that loads of powerful warriors would be in the world. However, this was not the case, as his expectations quickly faded away. Michael quickly dominated everyone that he came across, even those who were rumored to be pretty strong. Michael started winning pretty easily, and he considers this a normal thing. Tired of winning, he finally put down his sword. But this was when Damien finally showed up. Now that he has found someone whom he considers to be his equal, he hopes that he doesn't disappoint. Michael brandishes his sword and runs toward Damien, but our MC remains in one position and he easily dodges the strike. Michael suddenly finds himself getting hit with a blow from Damien. As if this was not enough, Damien followed through with a kick that sent him flying into the air. Michael managed to pull himself back together and he went after Damien again. This time around, he unleashes a powerful sword technique, but just like before, he couldn't reach Damien. Michael suddenly sees Damien standing beside him and he still hasn't removed his hand from his pocket. Michael then puts everything into his next attack as he uses an aerial attack against Damien. Michael lands his hit, leaving a loud explosion and resulting dust. When the dust clears up, Michael is shocked to see Damien standing unharmed. Michael berates Damien for dodging instead of fighting. He comes after Damien again, and Damien finally reaches for his sword since Michael is looking for an enjoyable fight. However, Michael is confident that his sword will definitely reach Damien before he can get the chance to pull out his sword. However, Michael suddenly sees his sword cut in half, and before he can process it, his head follows. Damien does all these while maintaining one hand in his pocket just to aura farm. Suddenly, everything becomes clear to Michael. The entire area still looks good as if there was no fight, and it turns out that there truly was no fight. Everyone is shocked to see Michael groveling in front of Damien, but none of them knows what Michael just witnessed. Michael basically saw himself dying while fighting Damien. When he looks up to look at Damien, Michael finally realizes that Damien is a huge figure that he can never reach. Everything that he witnessed was nothing but a mirage, or basically what would have happened if Damien had decided to fight him. With this in mind, Michael bows to Damien, admitting defeat. The third victory then goes to House Gold Pixie, basically making them the winners of the duel. After the battle, the Duke holds a banquet, hosting House Leon Bloom too. He urges them to drink and have fun. The Leon Bloom Knights want to thank Adam for his generosity, but they dare not because their master is staring at them like some rabid dog. Adam tells the Marquis to forget the beef and enjoy the moment. Adam even pours Holland a drink, since it is his duty as the victor. While getting the drink from Adam, Holland is busy thinking about what made Michael surrender. Holland assumes that he was struck with some sort of misfortune. In addition to this, Adam is hosting a party, which is basically a party to mock him for losing the battle. Elsewhere, Damien is staring at the fireplace, thinking about how he managed to achieve his original objective. He was able to bring victory to the Duke's household, and at the same time, he made sure to show the Lion Blooms not to mess with his family. However, he knows that he still has the Dark Mages to go after. Suddenly, Michael shows up, asking to sit beside Damien. Damien is surprised to see this, but he is more surprised when Michael starts to glaze him, telling him that he really respects him. Michael even pours Damien a drink, leaving him more confused. Michael admits that he never thought he would meet someone at his level or someone who surpasses him. However, he is happy to have met Damien. Michael considers them the same level but corrects this, saying Damien is far greater than he is. Damien is shocked that Michael is all nice to him, even though he beat Erwin up. Michael then confesses that he still doesn't understand what happened, but he could at least sense what would have happened if they actually crossed swords. Damien finally realizes that Michael doesn't know that he has awakened his super senses. Because he possessed this super sense, Michael was able to fight Damien in his mind. And this is when he realized that Damien is way above his league. For the first time, Michael felt true fear like King Meruem. Damien is happy that Michael has the super senses because this is what really saved his life. Damien knows that Michael would have lost not only his arm, but his life if he had tried to fight him. Michael looks into the sky and declares that the world is bigger than he thought. Damien then asks Michael if he would like a word of advice, and Michael says yes. Damien then points out that the world is vast, just like Michael has said. He lets him know that his talent may be rare, but it is not unique to him alone. Damien tells him that in the Empire alone, there are at least 3 people who are stronger than he is. Because of this, Damien advises Michael not to grow complacent. Damien admits that he once thought he was the best too. However, his arrogance was crushed when he was defeated by Dorgo. Michael then asks Damien if he is still living with the mentality that there is someone stronger than him. Damien quickly clears the air, telling Michael that he is currently the strongest. Michael tries to argue with him, but Damien just tells him that he is trying to tell him not to get complacent until he is as strong as him. Michael takes the advice to heart, assuring Damien that he will always remember it. Just then, Adam and Holland walk up to them. Adam is impressed that the two are already getting closer. The two bow to the Duke, asking him why he has come to see them. Adam tells the boys that he is done talking to Holland, which is why he came to see them. Apparently, before the duel, Adam and Holland had agreed that Holland would grant Damien access to the Marquis's vault if he came out victorious. However, Holland was being stingy, and Adam had to persuade him to another arrangement. Holland is pissed at the entire thing because he clearly cannot forgive Damien for what he did to Erwin. However, he has no choice but to let his anger pass for the meantime. Holland then apologizes to Damien for sending knights to his home as a show of force. Damien can sense that Holland is not being sincere with his apology because he left out the Erwin part. Holland then reveals that he cannot open the vault to Damien, but in return, he has something else to give him. It turns out to be a ring imbued with spatial magic, which was crafted in the White Tower. The ring can store up to 100 kilograms of items. Damien is impressed when he sees this because it's a dimensional artifact, which is worth at least a small castle. Damien doesn't like the fact that Holland is straying away from the actual deal, but he decides to just let it pass. Damien takes the ring and thanks Holland for it. Holland lets Damien know that he is ready to give him something else if he wants, but he can't open the vault for him. Since the Marquis household still has many fine weapons, Damien starts thinking of what to pick. Suddenly, it dawns on him that there is something he wants, which should be in the Lionbloom household at the moment. Damien then tells Holland that he would like a bow. Holland considers this a weird and unexpected ask. Damien then reveals that he needs the bow because he is planning to marry off his younger brother Abel. Abel is at the estate having fun when he suddenly feels a chill run down his spine. After they return from the duel, Damien informs the Duke that he is ready to leave. The Duke is surprised that Damien is already heading back to his estate. Adam lets Damien know that a banquet is being prepared for him, and he suggests that he wait till after the banquet. Damien tells Adam that he has been away from his family for too long already, which is why he needs to go back. Since Damien is insisting, Adam decides to bend to his wishes, but urges him to wait till the next day so that he can organize escorts for him. Damien is surprised when the Duke mentions escorts, and the Duke admits that Damien is strong, but at the same time, he is trying to keep him safe because he might run into bandits on his way home. Damien knows fully well that he doesn't need escorts, but since the Duke is offering, he doesn't want to throw away his goodwill. Damien accepts the Duke's offer and he thanks him for everything so far. Soon afterward, Damien and Victor leave the Gold Pixie estate and they start heading back home. They are assigned 2 escorts by the Duke, but Victor is the only one walking since he is the damn servant. Victor reveals his relief that they are finally going home, since the incident that Damien caused has been resolved. Damien stares at him intently, telling him to say what is on his mind, but Victor quickly looks away. Victor then mentions how comfortable the journey was when they were coming rather than now that he has to walk. He still takes a dig at his master because he is on a horse. Damien realizes that Victor has actually gotten a bit fatter, and he plans to whip him back into shape once they return to the estate. Once the sun starts to set, the knights inform Damien that they are going to set up camp. Damien gives them the go-ahead to do so. Momentarily, they set up the camp, and Victor prepares grilled meat for them. He serves his master, and he calls on the knights who are standing watch to come join them. The knights appreciate the gesture, but tell Victor that they will be eating separately later. Just then, Damien remembers his parting moment with Pabel and his brothers. Pabel was in tears while holding Damien, telling him not to leave just yet. Damien starts to wonder why Pabel and his brothers are acting so clingy all of a sudden. Pabel lets Damien know that he has opened his eyes to a new level of strength, and because of this, he thanks him. Damien assured Pabel that he also worked hard, and the dude assured him that they would never forget the lessons that he gave them. With a very respectable gesture, the trio bows their heads to Damien, holding him high as their master. Now in the present, they hear a rustle in the woods, and one of the knights offers to go check it out. Damien tries telling him not to worry, but he just cannot abandon his duty. Suddenly, a spear imbued with dark magic comes flying toward the knight, sending him toward a tree and impaling him right there. Panic ensues immediately after this happens. A voice echoes from the woods talking about his surprise that the Duke assigned escorts for Damien. Nonetheless, he doesn't think the escorts are strong enough to stop him. The man behind the voice finally emerges, and he turns out to be Ernst, who is now under the influence of the dark mages. He looks totally terrifying, and the second knight asks him why he is doing what he is doing. At the same time, Mustang and Rebecca appear behind Ernst, and they release the charm fragrance from their bodies. This moves toward Damien and his subordinates. The second knight falls under the influence since he is a low-level knight, but Damien remains unaffected. The moment Damien realizes that Victor will also fall, he knocks him out cold to prevent this. Rebecca then controls the knight, telling him to spin his own head. Damien tries to stop the knight, but the knight is far gone, and he eventually spins his own head off his neck. Once everyone is taken care of, Damien is left with the trio. Rebecca reveals that she is impressed that Damien wasn't affected by the bewitching scent, even though he is a low-level knight. She assumes that Damien has a strong constitution, which is what helped him. Because of this, the creepy Rebecca becomes more curious about Damien. She tells Mustang that they need to kill Damien and dissect him so they can learn more about him. Damien remains on guard as he prepares for an assault from the trio. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment next part in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.